Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review, and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. And today I am joined by my Cosmere Consigliere, Andre.
Zeth, son Volano, wore white on the day he was to kill a king.
Now I'm going to have to edit in that song that
No,
everyone's been
it's
doing on
oh sure, yeah,
Instagram.
the background music, yeah.
Yeah, I've been
It's
humming
just
that.
the hardest line to start a novel.
It's pretty good, but does he? He doesn't actually start there, right?
Well, I mean, that's the prologue. It's not the prelude, but it's the prologue. So
I remember complaining about that to you when. Uh,
a lot of people are like, "What the hell is going on? There's a prelude, a prologue, and okay, who is this character in chapter one?" Uh-huh. Yeah,
so,
it's a weak mind that cannot make it past.
Journey Before Destination.
Exactly.
So we're here today because Andre is the biggest Cosmere fan that I know. He's the person who got me into the Cosmere, and by getting me into the Cosmere, also got me into reading. So Andre is essentially responsible for this YouTube channel.
I am the great grandfather of this YouTube channel.
Absolutely. And what we're here to do today is Andre knows the Cosmere inside and out, especially Stormlight Archive. And what we're going
Yes,
to do.
I know Stormlight better than anything else in the Cosmere. I just finished my third read through of Stormlight Archive last night, within the last like 3 years. So yeah, that's I started in 2020 and then fell off halfway through Way of Kings because life actually started happening again here in Japan, and then went back to it in 2021, and then just sped read all of Stormlight Archive in like 2 months.
Yeah, so I thought, in lieu of rereading the Stormlight Archive, which every booktube channel seems to be doing, I would let Andre do it for me, and
Hmm.
then we would play a fun game today, which is where I try and remember what happened in the Stormlight Archive, and Andre sighs, cries, and corrects me on everything that I mess up or miss out.
Yeah.
We're not going to go
I
like hardcore detail. We're going to be going for top line, most important events for the characters.
if like I have read the preview chapters up until, let's see, it's November 24th for me right now, so I've read the preview chapters up until this point. So if there are important things that are coming back from the previous books, I will also like, hey, we didn't think this was that important, but also it's like playing into things right now. So I will mention that.
Excellent. That's probably very useful for me to be like, this is what I should be remembering.
Hmm.
And the other thing, so I read the Stormlight Archive in, I want to say 2022, 20,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's right.
22, and I've not touched any of the books since. I've not reread. I've not,
Hmm.
I'm not consuming Cosmere content in any way really, aside
I mean,
from.
you just read Elantris.
Yeah, I did just read Elantris, and it was fantastic. I think it might be my favorite Cosmo book.
I think that's recency bias.
I
It's
also think
good.
it could be that.
I'm not an Elantris hater or anything. I think it's clear that he's leveled up as a writer
Hmm.
since then, but I think that is 100% recency bias.
It could absolutely be. I think my other favorites would be like Tress and the second Era 2 book.
Really, Shadows of Morning is you'd put that above like Alloy of Law or Bands of Mourning. Wait,
Yeah, because it's
Shadows
the
of
one with
Self.
Bleeder. The Bleeder,
Yeah.
it's the best book. I think it's the
Okay.
best Wax and Wayne book. And Wax and Wayne's my
Okay.
favourite section of the Cosmere.
Yeah, yes, that I know. But yeah, I didn't realize that Shadows of Self was the favorite. A book so sad that Sanderson had to stop writing it and go write the third book in the middle of writing it. It's
Well,
like, I don't know how to finish this.
it makes a lot of sense. And the books that you struggle with sometimes tend to be the best ones. So yeah, that's kind
It's no
of
Words of
both.
Radiance.
I like Words of Radiance, but there's a specific thing that I don't like, which we'll get to.
Okay.
So let's. Oh yeah, and as homework for this video, I have watched Bookborn's Stormlight Archive recap, which I will try to remember to link in the description, but I'm real bad at linking stuff in the description. So if it isn't there, you can Google it. It's a very popular video. It was like a 3-hour video, so I feel like I've done well, but I've tried to get like a small amount of bullet points per character per book.
Let's see how well you digested the information.
Exactly. So I did watch that video like last week, and I wrote the notes for this video today. So
what were you doing while you watched this video? This is important.
I think I was pacing
how engaged
around my kitchen trying to get a baby to sleep.
Okay.
For I would say a good third of it.
Okay, that is a good way to pass that time.
So let's go straight into Way of Kings. So the prelude is set on Blaze. Is it called Blaze?
No, this is not. You're already off to a rip-roaring failed start. Prelude is like 4,000 years before or so, and it takes place on Roshar.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, it takes place on Roshar. And then what else is happening?
So basically, one dude is like fighting off an entire army, and several other dudes are like, actually, fuck this. And this is all about the Oath Pact. And like, we find this out later, but essentially, the one dude who stays behind is Talon, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he's the herald. I don't know what he's herald of. And all the heralds have the honor blades, which are like shard blades that work without a spren. And that makes them like Knights Radiant level super powerful, but they basically are in this like ongoing forever war where when something about them dying. It's not when all of them die, is it?
It's when all of who dies? When all of the heralds die?
Yeah. Is that the thing? Or is it
it is basically when one herald dies, then they all have to die to like maintain the Oath Pact, because it's like, oh, we're stronger together type thing. But so what's happening there is Kolek, who is the point of view character of the Prelude, is walking through, like, it's the end of a battle, like massive battle, and he finds Jezrien, who is kind of king of the heralds or whatever. He's their leader, and he's like, Talon died. He was holding off some impossible battle like he always does, and he died. Everyone else survived. And Kolek's like, I can't go back. I don't want to go back. And Jezrien's like, neither do any of the the 9 of us who are still here. So Ishar, the bondsmith who created the Oath Pact, thinks we are good to go if Talon just stays, because Talon's cool. He's real good. And so they all leave behind their honor blades.
And basically, that's the end of that. And then we move on to the prologue. And the prologue, obviously, is Seth, son Villano, wore white on the day he was to kill a king.
Yep. The coolest shit ever.
Yeah.
Can I curse on this channel?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we've gone past the first minute, which is when YouTube hates it if you swear a lot. So, yeah, an incredibly cool chapter. The Seth is he is a Knight Radiant. He has Surge Binding powers. I remembered what Surge Binding was this week, so that's cool.
He is not a Knight Radiant.
He's not a Knight Radiant.
He has an honor blade.
He has an honor blade, right?
The Knights Radiant do not exist at this time.
Interesting. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I was going to be like, isn't Shallan already a Radiant? But no, she becomes one.
The Knights Radiant is like a whole thing. Like it's a whole, like, you know, it's a structure. It's a
it's an organization. It's not.
Yes, it's an organization.
I need to talk about it in terms of
you could say
binders.
People are radiant. You could say someone is radiant, I suppose, but they are not a Knight Radiant. But yes, Shallan was radiant at this time.
So Seth kills Gavilar, who is the king of the Alethi.
Yes.
This kind of kicks off the entire story.
Yes.
And then this is a really good, like, classic writing technique, which is start off with an incredibly badass action scene that gets people going, like, who are these characters, what's happening, and then we shift to, is it like 17 years later? It's like
No, it's like 5.
5 years later. Okay. So I don't know why I said 17. Anyway, so then we shift over to this new point of view, which is some random kid, and he is being inducted into a new unit as a soldier, and the lead of this unit is Kaladin.
Yes.
He then basically, this guy basically gets killed, but Kaladin is so badass that he is able to kill a Shardblade wielder. Shardblades are a whole thing. Most people who are watching this, I would assume, by the way, this is completely full spoiler. I didn't mention that earlier, but we're going to be spoiling everything. But so, you know what a Shardblade is. We're not going to go deep into that. But basically, Kaladin is such a badass, he's able to kill Shardblade wielder, who we find out is important later on. But he basically brings the Shardblade to his, like, unit commander or whatever, who's a guy called Amaram, and he's like,
Hoyd Amaram.
yeah, what? His name's Hoyd Amaram?
No, there was I might have been someone wrote like an AI generated screenplay of a Cosmere, of like a Stormlight movie, and at the end there's a tombstone that says Hoyd Amaram.
This is the kind of trivia that I bring you on for.
It's the creme posting trivia. Yep.
So, he gives the Shardblade to Amram. He's like, "You have the Shardblade. I don't want it." And Amram's like, "No one's gonna believe you that you just gave it to me. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to, like, murder you or something." And he kills all of his unit. Right? He kills everyone in the unit, but he doesn't kill Kaladin. He makes him a slave. This is going to be, from now on, we're going to just talk Kaladin's plot, and then we'll shift over to Shallan, then Dalinar. So, those are the only viewpoints I had for summary for this.
Those are the main viewpoints. We should talk about Szeth too, kind of at large, but we can talk about him after Dalinar.
Yeah. So, Kaladin is sent to the Shadow Plains, which is where he's always wanted to go, but he's sent there as a slave. And when he's a slave, he becomes something called a bridgeman. Bridgemen, basically, their whole job is to carry a giant, like, wooden bridge that is used to cross the gaps between chasms. Chasms on the Shadow Plains. I'm going to not go too deep into explaining what things are, like I did with Shardblades, because hopefully you guys should.
No, it's if you're watching this video, you know.
Yeah. So he's sent to Bridge 4, and miraculously, Kaladin is not dying, and less people are dying on Kaladin's bridge when he's around.
Partially because he is a doctor and he is like, or surgeon training, and is using that training to save people's lives.
So, around a third of the way into the book, which is up to the point where I was like, wow, I'm not sure about this book. But then, around a third of the way in, Kaladin has a moment with a spren called Syl, who has been hanging around with him, and she brings him a leaf. And it's like a poison leaf, right? It's a leaf that he can use to kill himself.
Well, no, it was, he had been holding on to a leaf, this poison, and then he was going to poison the slaver.
Oh, he's going to poison Gaz. Right?
Not Gaz. No, he's going to split to Laku, the man who was taking him to the Shattered
Oh
Plains,
yeah, that guy.
and he was like aging the leaf because that's how you draw out the poison, make it more poisonous. And then he ended up like crushing it when he got really angry, and then like lost it, and he was like, "Ah, no, my poison leaf." And then Syl was like, "It's just a leaf." Blah, 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 blah. Didn't know like what was up with it,
Mm,
and so yeah, at this moment where he's about to kill himself,
yeah.
she comes like, "Hey, I got you this leaf. Well, does that make everything better?" And
Mm.
that just like the ridiculousness of that Rob Dyrdek's ridiculousness saves Kaladin's life.
Mm. And then the interesting thing there is that Kaladin goes like, right, I'm actually going to make a thing of this now. I'm going to train my boys. I'm going to level up the Bridge 4 team, and we're going to be the best bridge of slaves there is.
Hmm.
And he does that.
Yep.
And then I think that probably the next major development for him really is that he discovers that he has the ability to draw in Stormlight and have superpowers.
Hmm.
So,
I mean, yeah,
mostly
there's the whole
healing, isn't it?
storm thing. Yeah, yeah, because he gets strung up for trying to for not dying. Basically, they try
Mm.
something stupid and that sabotages the whole thing with the side carry. Kaladin gets strung up in a storm. He's like, "I'm gonna live.
Mm.
You come out here and you'll see me alive." And then Syl like protects him from the storm, kinda, and yeah, and then he's alive, and they're like, "Well, can't do anything. He's still alive. He was supposed to die at the storm." And then Teft heals him, and he's like, "Oh, he's like drinking Stormlight."
Mm. And I can't remember how the book ends for Kaladin. Though there's like a big bridge run, isn't there? And he
Yeah.
meets
Huh?
Dalinar.
Hmm.
And then we get what is my favourite moment in the entire Cosmere. Like, not even a joke. Where,
Hmm.
and this is more of a Dalinar moment, I guess, but it happens in a Kaladin chapter. Where,
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
yeah,
It's kind of a mix, but yeah.
Kaladin's like, oh, Dalinar basically trades his shard blade to
Hmm.
Sadius for the Bridge
Hmm.
4 crew.
Yep.
And
For all of the bridge crews,
all of the bridge crews.
he's like, I will give you the shard blade for every single bridge man you have.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And
because he
obviously,
lost. He
yeah.
lost so many people, which we'll talk about. But he lost so many people in Sadius's betrayal. He's like, I need new soldiers, so you give me everyone you've got.
And shard blades obviously are insanely valuable.
They say like, oh, they're worth a kingdom.
Yeah.
So
And Kaladin, my favourite line where Kaladin's like, oh, it was worth so much money or whatever. And Dalinar's
mhm.
like, oh, how much value would you put on your friends? And he's like, oh, I can't put a value on them. And he's like, oh, then it was a good trade. And I was
Yeah.
like, yep, absolutely. Best line. I think that's the best moment Sanderson has written in terms of
Mm.
like interpersonal. Like,
Hmm.
that's the beginning of the like bond between the two characters.
Yeah.
Really, really loved that moment. So, how much did I forget? Apart from the flashback, I guess we go through the
Uh,
flashback quickly, and that
yeah. Sure. Yeah. The flashback is not super important.
except that it
There's some
takes up
stuff for
like
maybe book
30% of the
four,
book.
but yeah, there's some stuff for like book four where it
Mm,
matters. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the big picture stuff. There's him building up the team into like the military power and using like he is like a legendary soldier
mm,
basically. Everywhere he goes, he creates this ridiculous reputation. He's swearing ideals throughout, and his fight at the tower is ridiculous because he's like one man holding back the entire Parshendi army basically,
mm.
and once again goes to fight a shard bearer one on one, and survives and gets Dalinar out of there. So
I
yeah,
do
that
remember that
that's
being
kind
a
of
very cool scene.
yeah. It's that like first time reading that was like, oh my god, this is so cool. This is like feel good juice directly into my veins.
Mm. I think, obviously, Sanderson writes incredible endings. It's what he's known for. It's what he's really good at.
Mhm.
And I think this is one of the best. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of other endings I liked more, and I do think this Way of Kings might be my favorite.
Hmm.
The Last
Hmm.
Metal Sanderlanche is basically 60% of the book, and that's pretty good.
Yes. The whole book is the ending.
Let's go to Shallan.
Sure.
So, Shallan, Shallan is leaving, has left her family behind, and is going to try to study under Yasna Colin, who is
Hmm.
Dalinar's niece.
Hmm.
Right? Niece? Yeah.
Yes, she is the sister to the king,
Yeah. Is
to the
she
new king, the son of the man who died in the prologue.
she older than Elokar,
Yes, she is the older sister.
but the male
Patriarchy.
succession patriarchy
Yes.
would never happen in the Wheel of Time, is all I'm going to say. Um, so Yasna is extremely famous for being super intelligent and kind of a piece of shit.
World famous scholar.
Yeah, and the Shallan's like, I'm super clever. I'm going to go and study under her. You'll laugh at this, right? I had forgotten the whole concept of that Shallan could just like reproduce anything that she had seen ever in her life,
Mm.
like on
Like
in a
like
sketch.
photographic memory.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten
Yeah.
that entire concept.
That's kind of very essential to her character.
Yeah, look, we've Andre and I have privately had the discussion where I'm like, "Oh, I don't remember that. I only read it 2 days ago, so like, so that's gone from my brain now. I enjoyed it at the time,
Uh-huh.
which is why I try and do my reviews close to when I finish the books.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes sense.
So the true secret though is that Shallan is intending to steal Yasna's soulcaster, and
Hmm.
she's going to use the soulcaster to like make shit to sell to save her family. Her family has a
Yes.
mine, right? Is that a thing? Like,
Uh, that is what they say, but they have been using a soul caster this whole time, and so but then it broke, and so they need to find a new soul caster to replace the one that broke, so they can keep their family from going under.
so yeah, that's the whole thing with Shallan. Her the majority of her story is set in this place that's it's Taravangian's king. Pardon me,
Carbron,
Cabranth. Yeah, that was it. And
City of Bells.
the big kind of not twist, like the big thing that's going on with Shallan is that she's kind of sort of falling for this priest dude,
Hmm.
and the priest dude tries to poison her.
Not her.
Well, tries to poison Jasna.
He is very specifically not trying to poison Shallan and is like feeding her the antidote.
Right. And then Yasna has been soulcasting, has been wearing her soulcaster the whole time, and then but she actually doesn't need the soulcaster because she's a
Yes.
surge binder, and her ability, one of them is soulcasting, and so
Yes.
Shallan is like, oh, because she steals the soulcaster, and she's like, oh shit, it's broken, but it's
Well, she's like, I don't know how to work this. Oh
yeah,
boy.
and and she's like, oh no, because she replaces the one Yasna's one with her broken one, right?
Yeah.
But like he has, she's like Yasna never noticed, and it's because she doesn't use it, so she had no
Yeah.
idea, which is a very funny bit from Brandon. And then there's a lot of stuff going on where Shallan is drawing scary figures in her photographic recollections that were not
Yeah.
there.
Well, I mean, she's not even drawing like those. She's drawing what's happening around her, Taravangian poses for a portrait. I think the first time it happens, Taravangian's like, "Oh, I wanted a portrait of me. Would you draw one?" She's like, "Oh, sure." And then she starts drawing, and then weird, spooky-headed things in the background looking at her. And it happens multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is because she's actually bonded a spren.
Bonding.
Bonding, yeah. And we don't,
Bonded and bonding.
yeah, because we don't. really find out about this until Words of Radiance, do we? So
To find out about what?
about that she's bonding a Spren, or does that come up
No,
in
you
Way of
find out
Kings?
by the end of the book. Yeah, you find out at the end of the book.
Okay, so we find out that she's doing the same thing Kaladin is basically. She's kind of on that grind. And the Spren is Pattern. He's a cryptic. Cryptic Sprens let you become light weavers, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because she can soulcast, Yasna thinks that Shallan is also an Else caller, like Yasna. But then later finds out, oh, we are not the same.
Yeah. And every Radiant has two abilities, don't
Powers,
they?
yeah.
So
and they goes around in a circle, and you share power with the order on the other side. Yeah.
And so Yasna and Shallan share soul casting, but not the other thing, which is
transportation and illumination.
Yeah. Which I think is a very cool way to do the stuff, because the Sanderson's kind of sort of doing like 9 magic systems or whatever. But I think that because they're all simple, it all kind of works.
10.
There you go. So I think that's everything for Shallan. There's not that.
She gets found out, and then because it's like she gets poisoned, and then Yasna's like, I'll transform your blood, and then she's like, wait, no, the soul caster, it's not real, and then she gets found out. But then she convinces, because they are Yasna's whole thing is researching the Voidbringers. And so we're at over the course of the book, they begin to think that the Voidbringers are the Prescendi, which is who they're fighting on the Shattered Plains, and who killed or who sent Szeth to kill Gavilar.
Okay, Dalinar. So Dalinar is a high prince, which means that he's head of like a royal house.
420, blaze it every day.
Absolutely. And he's also the uncle of the king. He's got 2 sons who are badasses. We like them both. One's badass, one's more of a nerd.
Yeah, but he's good. We like Renarin, but he is not badass in the Way of Kings.
So he is having visions during the high storms, and that kind of like the visions are like showing him stuff that has happened, but also like is gonna happen. Right? Have I got that wrong?
It is unclear. He's like showing him past events, but how real are they versus how much are they like a diorama of like, this is what things were like. I don't think we ever get clarification on. I think some of them probably were like real events, but it could just be like, this is the kind of thing that was happening. It's not entirely clear, but yeah. So getting visions mostly of the past, and then some that are less past, more abstract, maybe.
Like showing him kind of how things are, not what is physically actually happening.
Well, kind of, yeah. Like here, this is like an existential threat, so here's kind of an existential vision.
And one of the big things that he's doing in this book is like trying to kind of get everyone in line. So Elhokar has kind of let things devolve into like this kind of constant party with war bands, and Dalinar disapproves, and he's like, he's like, oh, I want to get everyone to like be chill, and
I want to finish the fight. We need to stop messing around. We just need to go out there and end this, because he is he has a reputation, which we'll talk about with Oathbringer. But his reputation is changing over the course of this book and like leading up to it. So nobody like wants to listen to him, but he's like, we gotta stop fighting. We just gotta like end the fight. We're not doing anything.
There's a great scene I remember at a party where he meets Wit, or like, well, not meets Wit, but like, where also that's where I realised Wit was Hoyd. Like, pretty much that, because obviously I've seen Hoyd a lot of times because I read Stormlight last. So like I could work out. I
Did
was
you?
like, oh, this is Hoyd. Yeah, because I read all of Mistborn first and
Okay.
Warbreaker. The
Right.
only thing I
Okay.
hadn't read was Elantris. So I had seen Hoyd like 9 times by that point. So I knew my mans. So that was good. I really enjoyed that party scene, and it ends with like, does it end with Wit and Dalinar having like a long conversation, or is that in another?
They talk a
book?
couple times. They talk a couple times, and Wit does like mention Adonalsium in this book, but Dalinar is like, "What are you talking about? You are insane." And so there is, for me, this was my first Cosmere book, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But Wit, Hoyd does seem to know, does know what's going on and is dropping hints and leaves. Oh, he does meet Kaladin too. We didn't talk about that, but he meets Kaladin and is like, oh, learn to play this flute.
That's the scene I'm thinking of. Is the one-on-one
Oh,
conversation between Kaladin
oh yeah,
and
maybe.
Wit? I did
Yeah, he
really
has
enjoy
like
that as
a
well.
covert conversation. Like Hoyd shows up in like a hood and in like incognito at a banquet and is like, "Have you ever heard of Adonalsium?" And like says a bunch of other weird stuff. Is like, "Yeah, it's a cow." It's like, "What is a cow? I don't. What are you talking about?" He's like, "It's delicious, but I think there was one in Sadius's family tree." That might be a different book, but there is a joke about Sadius being part cow. So yeah, I don't even remember what we were talking about, but yes, Dalinar and Hoyd meet, and Wit has been around because he's the king's wit and is always making fun of people and on behalf of the king. So everyone hates him.
Yeah, but as a reader, we all love him. And the big thing is that he's got this enemy, Sadius, and he's like, I need to put this behind us because they used to be best friends.
Yeah, they used to be very good friends. They worked with Gavilar to unite the Alethi kingdoms. But yeah, Sadius is being a jerk.
He's kind of ambitious, right? Whereas Dalinar is like, my uncle, my nephew's on the throne. Whereas Sadius is
Well,
like, but what if I was on the throne?
kind of, but Sadius doesn't want to be on the throne. He wants to. It's too much like responsibility, and like he's accountable to too many people if he's on the throne. As a high prince who carries favor from the throne, he can do whatever he wants. But as soon as he's on the throne, then he would rather be high prince than have all the status that comes along with it, but then be able to defer anything to the king. So theoretically, Dalinar and Sadius, even though they're at butting heads, they both what's best for the throne, and Sadius just so happens to think that what's best for the throne is getting rid of Dalinar.
And the other thing that's kind of going on in this is that early in the book, when we first meet Dalinar, there is a hunt for a chasm fiend, and during the hunt for the chasm fiend, the king Elokar, his saddle is like cut, and so Elokar, already paranoid because his dad was assassinated, is now ultra paranoid, and kind of gets he like, doesn't he put Sadius in charge of the investigation?
First, it's Dalinar
First, yeah, it's Dalinar, then he shifts it over.
because he's like Dalinar's not getting the job done, so then he gives the job to Sadius. Yeah.
And then Dalinar and Sadius have like a bro moment, and they decide that they're both going to go for a gem heart together as like co-op sort of thing. Sadius betrays him, and leaves Dalinar and Adeline out on on a rock surrounded by
The most notorious
thousands of
battlefield,
Parshendi.
basically.
Yeah.
The most notorious battlefield that exists out on the Shattered Plains.
And that's when the Kaladin section interlocks,
Yes.
and Kaladin saves them, and things happen.
Yes.
Very, very good. In book one, Dalinar was my favorite character.
There's also his whole storyline about, like, should I abdicate the throne because everyone thinks I'm bananas because of these visions and what everything I'm doing. So
he's got a lot of
that's another big
insecurities
thing
going on there about,
it's
and he loves
insecurity or just he
read.
cares. He's like, I think I'm doing what's right, but like nobody trusts me and like all this stuff, so maybe I should just leave things to my son while I figure out what's going on with me.
And the other thing that's going on with him that I'd forgotten is that he can't remember his wife. So his wife is completely wiped from his memory. And that's a major story thing for him across the first 3 books.
He just gets a big Borat voice whenever someone says the name of his wife.
Borat
Instead of the name, he just hears, "My wife."
Did I ever tell you that I did that in my wedding speech?
Yes.
Everyone laughed. All of my friends. And that's what was important for me. They were the audience, I was playing to the cheap seats. So we'll quickly run over Seth. So
Seth.
He's from Shinovar, which means he's a white dude, which is fun. And he has
he's got a shaved head.
Yeah.
Much like you are very.
I'm cosplaying.
Zeth.
Not wearing white.
You are very. Yeah, you got big Zeth vibes going on. You just, instead of black, you need to be wearing white.
Next episode.
Okay.
So Seth, he has a stone called an Oath Stone, and whoever holds the Oath Stone gets to tell him what to do. And we get multiple interludes with Seth in this book.
Yep.
Where one of them, Seth, is basically being held on to by like a gangster, and the gangster is just using him to do shit.
Yep.
And then there's another one where he's sent to kill another king. Is that this? That's this book, isn't it? Which was a very good scene. I really enjoyed that.
There are a couple scenes like that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of king murdering happening. And I think the final... No, he doesn't figure out till book 2, does he? That Surge Binders are legit and he's not truthless. That happens in book 2.
Yes.
So I'm going to put a stab in the dark at 2 other interludes that happen in this book. I think one of them is one of them a Taravangian interlude near the end?
Yes.
Then there's the Pure Lake, which is very cool.
Yeah.
As a concept.
Yes. That is 3 Cosmere dudes who we have seen in other books. One of them you saw in Elantris. It's, I don't remember the name. It's the friend. It's the other friend. Guy. Yeah, the best friend of the main character. I can't remember any character names from Elantris.
I want to say Rufio, but it's Raiden.
Raoden, yeah.
Raoden.
Yeah, and then it's like the farmer guy who like shows him around and shows him the ropes. He is one of those guys, and then it's it's someone from Mistborn that we know, and then someone else.
Before book 6 comes out, I genuinely will do a reread. I'm excited to get to see these characters and be like, oh shit, it's this guy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't work any of this out. You had to tell me. Even though I'd read all the books.
Yeah, sure. But it's not super obvious either. But it's through talking, Sanderson sharing answers to questions and whatnot. And people like kind of the way they speak, like someone saying rusts and things like that.
I think I worked that out.
The other thing is, what is it? The Taravangian and Zeth, like, interlock, or like they come together, and you find out the Taravangian has been the one ordering Zeth to kill a bunch of all the new kings, even though it's like 5 years after the murder of Gavilar. Now he's killing again, and that's because of Taravangian. And then, do you remember the other thing that we see Taravangian doing at the end of this book?
Oh, do we find out about Taravangian being the bad guy at the end of the book? No, we find out about the death rattles, right? That's the thing.
Yes,
So
he's
the
got his like
epigraphs
weird
are
death
all
farm where
Taravangian,
because
the death rattles
because
are
like
of
him.
telling the future, and so he's able to like monitor them.
Yeah,
And see what's
he
gonna
is
happen.
murdering like homeless people and invalids in his hospital, and just like slowly draining their blood until they're on the verge of death, and then hoping they
Say something.
have a death rattle and like can give a glimpse into the future, and then they die.
Taravangian, very cool character. I love that the whole time all they talk about is that Cabranth has this incredible hospital, and it's just because he wants to do this thing. He wants to just draw as many sick people to him as possible to experiment
I
on.
mean, I think it was he used the hospitals to like do that. But the timing, Taravangian's timing,
Does
like
his wife die? That's like one of the things.
yeah, but we like it's interesting because we know very little about like when he started on his path. As far as I know, like we know when Dalinar went to see the Night Watcher.
Yeah.
We know roughly when Lift went to see the Night Watcher because she's like 10 years old. We don't know when Taravangian went to see the Night Watcher, and it seems like it was a while ago. But like even before the prologue, because he does meet with Gavilar on that night. But it's the timing on that stuff is interesting.
Yeah. I bet you that we get a. I wonder if we get a Taravangian like flashback series for a book. You mean you know what the flashback characters are, don't you? Brandon's revealed it.
I don't. There might be like some information. We might get like something here or there to but
he's
I
not
don't
a
think
flashback character.
he is not a main viewpoint for the flashbacks. No.
Words of Radiance. We're moving on because also
Yes.
we've been recording for like 40 minutes, and I was
It's gonna be
expecting
a long
to
video.
do a 1 hour episode. We won't go too hardcore, but this. So Words of Radiance.
We can kind of speed through some stuff. We got the basics of like character stuff, but like basic plot. So like we can go to Kaladin's plot.
Yeah. And Words of Radiance is Shallan's flashbacks. It's also like most people's favorite Sanderson book is Words of Radiance. It's like the highest
I think it's
rated
this
book
and
on Goodreads of all time.
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, I think so.
There's obviously factors that play into that.
It's like highest rated within like it has X amount of votes and stuff. So it's not like it's got 100 5-star reviews to people who got
like
the book for free.
Like 750,000 reviews or something, and they're all 4 or 5 star. So Kaladin's story in this one we'll kind of gloss over a little, but I think Kaladin's story in this one is really good. I did not like Kaladin very much in book 1. It's book 2 that sells me, although the one big issue, the actual 2 issues I have with Words of Radiance, one of them is that if Kaladin and Dalinar had had a conversation, most of their story, like a lot of his story, wouldn't have happened. Because there's a lot of like, I don't trust Dalinar, and Dalinar can't trust me, and you're like, no, he does. You just haven't like talked to him about shit.
I mean, he does talk to Dalinar at one point about Amaram, because Amaram shows up, and then Kaladin, it looks like nothing happens.
Yeah.
Because Dalinar, they won't have that conversation. You won't like, but also, it's weird because he does play it so close to his chest for some reason.
So Bridge 4 and Kaladin become in charge of the King's protection, the King's Guard. Moash is one of Bridge 4 and Moash
Hmm.
tries to bring Kaladin on an assassination attempt on Elhokar.
Hmm.
Then there's a very cool scene where the assassination attempt takes place. One of the best action scenes in the book.
I think you are conflating some different scenes, maybe, or you're skipping over like the entire book.
I think I'm skipping. Um, I'm trying to think of like. There's a moment where Shallan meets Kaladin and she forces him to give her his boots.
Yes, yes,
I
this
remember
does
that
happen.
scene. That's a Shallan POV scene, though, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Then, but yeah, so the Dalinar Elhokar assassination attempt is absolutely badass, and we'll come back to that, I guess.
I mean,
The
it's the Kaladin point of view, but
the big moment here is the duel, isn't it? So
mhm,
Adeline
sure.
is trying to like Adeline is basically collecting shard blades from
Hmm.
everyone. And the way that he's doing it is dueling them for shards because he is the best duelist that has ever lived.
Yep.
And
Theoretically, yes, he's very good. That is like his thing is dueling. Yeah,
yeah, it's like his whole deal. He's the UGO of of
the Yu-Gi-Oh,
yeah. Look, that's how I think that's how they said it
the
on the British dub.
Yu-Gi-Oh. Well, that is language erasure. Uh,
So yeah, he loves to duel, and he does loads of dueling, and eventually he's like, I want to duel Sadius, and they're like, well, no, you can't duel Sadius, but you can duel these. You can duel a couple of guys, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll take on whoever, and they like twist his words, and they're like, well, actually, it's four dudes.
yeah, he's like, I'll fight you and whoever you want to bring.
Yeah, and he uses they like sneak around it, and they're like, well, I want to bring four guys in full shard plate with shard blades,
Hmm. But yeah,
and
they don't have it. They can't get enough blades, so there's like one dude who has like a hammer and then like three blades, and yeah.
and so it's very big. Like it's one of the better scenes in the book. It's like the first big Adeline scene, isn't it? Like Adeline has good plot bits, but it's like the
Hmm.
big scene
Hmm.
where you also one of the interesting things in this book is the friendship slash frenemy between
Hmm.
Kaladin and Aladin,
Yeah.
Adeline. And I know that I'm saying this wrong, according to Michael Kramer, but I want you to know that Brandon Sanderson has specifically said there is no canon pronunciation for any Cosmere terms. That even he does not say that the way he says things is canon. So I'm just saying that
Hmm.
now, 40 minutes in.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Kaladin jumps into the duel because Dalinar's like, so get him some help, and Kaladin's like, I'll see what I can do. Like, pretty
His
certain that's
honor is
the line.
dead. I'll
Oh,
see what I can do.
yeah, absolute badass line. And because Kaladin is radiant, secretly, no one knows yet, but you know
Hmm.
he knows, he is able to kind of have Adeline's back, and they defeat
Yep.
these four dudes.
Yep. And Renarin also goes out there, and but then having received Dalinar's shard plate and also a shard blade from a duel that Adolin won earlier in the book, I think, or
Yeah,
from the Shattered Plains, uh, in the first book. But he kind of shuts down and goes. Everyone thinks he's having one of his like seizures.
he can't touch the shard blade, can he? And that's something we find out later on. We know why.
Yes, yes. Like basically Kaladin also goes through this when they're training with shard blades under Dalinar's orders, because like if you're gonna fight a shard blade, you have to like train with it and like know what they can do. And he's like, this thing is screaming in my ears.
Yeah,
What the hell?
very good, very genuinely good thing that Brandon's done there. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, we have the duel. The duel is great. Somebody tries to kill Elhokar again,
Hmm.
in like a real dumb way.
Zeth.
They
Oh,
is
oh yes.
Yeah, in a dumb way. Someone cuts a piece of railing out,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Kaladin saves Elhokar there, right?
No, it's somebody else is
Somebody
there and
else is
like
there.
saves him. He goes
Yeah,
out after a high storm and is like, whoa,
yeah.
hanging off the edge, and then they save him, and then
Um,
it's
it's
very
done, but it's very
haphazard.
funny. And yeah, Seth comes for Elokar.
Hmm.
Seth comes for Elokar, and Dalinar
No, he
does
doesn't.
no.
He
Oh,
comes
he's
for
coming
he
for
comes for
Dalinar, isn't
Dalinar.
he? He's coming for Dalinar,
Hmm.
and Seth does. Dalinar does the last clap, which is the
Hmm.
coolest concept
Which this
ever.
happens before the duel because Kaladin sees that happen and he's like, "What?" And then he tries to do it in the duel, but
Yeah.
then like something freaks the other guy out. Uh, but so he doesn't even. I don't even think Kaladin gets to do the clap because the guy like freaks out before he strikes
Yeah.
and runs away.
Because the thing that we haven't actually covered is that people do know probably, but that shard blades like kill the limb. Like if you get cut by a shard
Mhm.
blade, your like whole hand stops working. It basically
Yeah,
becomes dead. It goes like grey, doesn't it? Like
it's just lifeless and
yeah,
like it doesn't like go necrotic or anything. It just you can't use it.
yeah. Unless
You're
you're
paralyzed.
a radiant, then you can heal yourself with Stormlight, which Kaladin does when it happens to him.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, so down on nine.
I had to get up and walk around after that fight, after that scene.
Just when Dalinar does the clap, like you're like,
Yeah.
it's such a cool
His
concept.
storm wagon, he gets his storm wagon up in the air and just snatches that blade between his cheeks.
Oh yeah, canonically, Dalinar has a great ass. That's a
Yes.
genuine part of the books.
Yes. Hmm.
Like Nightwing.
According to like an 11-year-old girl, but probably
Um,
also according to Navani Colin.
yeah.
But we also forgot the most important part of Way of Kings where Dalinar says, "I'm courting your mother."
Oh yeah,
So, the king.
that's a courting. Um, so yeah, then there's the Elokar assassination attempt, which is much later in the book. Which, as you're right,
Mhm.
and that's like the finale, isn't it? Like
Yes.
he eventually does the I will protect those who can't protect themselves. Does the
Hmm.
second
Says the
ideal
third idea. Because he's
turns?
almost killed his spren. He's almost killed Syl because he's
Oh,
got
I
these
forgot the whole chasm
competing.
bit as well. But we'll go.
Yeah, there's that.
We'll go through that.
It's the Shalon stuff, and like it's not like plot wise, it's not the most important.
Hmm.
Like overarching story wise, it's not the most important. But
It's good
like
character
Kaladin
moments.
dealing with the competing ideals or like the competing oaths of like I'll help Moash kill the king versus I'm sworn to protect the king and like
Hmm.
the Colin family to Dalinar, and those two things competing causes like his bond with Syl to like fade and her to go kind of catatonic, and so
Hmm.
he doesn't know what to do, and she can't tell him what to do because he's made these oaths and he can't just break an oath.
Hmm. And yeah, so then he swears the second ideal. He
Third,
third ideal. Syl.
second ideal is at the end of Way of Kings.
Oh, is the first ideal
That's
like
that's
when
that
you can
that's
just start using
the first
Stormlight?
ideal is just life before death.
Yeah.
Though I was trying to pay attention and I don't know that I saw where he said it, if he ever actually said the original first ideal, but or maybe that I don't know. At some point, he swears the third ideal.
Yeah. And the third is shard blades. So he's able
Yes.
to turn Syl into a shard blade. He then
Yep.
turns. Does he turn into a shard spear at this point, or is that in book three?
That's later.
Yeah.
Later in book two. Later in book two.
So yeah, he gets the shard blade and then saves the king.
Mhm.
Elokar is genuinely really well done in this book and has like a big humanizing scene with
Mhm.
Kaladin where he's like, I know I'm a shit king.
Mhm.
Like, can you help me?
Yeah. I want to be like you. I want to walk like you. I want to talk like you.
So let's shift to Shallan, I guess.
Hmm.
I think we've got the
Sure.
the headlines for Kaladin now. So Shallan is figuring out that she's a light weaver.
Hmm.
That's kind of like a lot of her plot in this. But the big thing is she starts on a boat with Yasna. They're going to the Shack
Hmm.
Plains, and the boat
Hmm.
sinks.
Why does the boat sink?
Does Shallan fuck it up, or is
No.
I can't remember why the boat sinks. I remember it sinks and
So,
somebody is at
okay,
fault.
so someone in Way of Kings, the what's his name? I don't remember his name. The monk is trying to kill Yasna.
Yeah,
Then other people associated with him sneak onto the boat. They infiltrate the boat and they murder Yasna.
yeah,
So they think. And then Shallan's like, "Oh my God, they're gonna burn this boat. They're gonna kill everybody on board." So she soul casts the boat, and makes it sink, and so the rest of the people can get away.
and it's is it ghost dudes, ghost bloods that are trying to
Yes,
kill
Ghost
Yasna?
Bloods.
Yeah,
But we don't know that until I think that it's the
I
Ghost
feel
Bloods
like
that
we
are
learn
trying to
that
kill her.
later.
But they're the people who are doing it. The guy in the first book was a Ghost Blood. Tin and them are not Ghost Bloods, but they're associated doing jobs for them.
So we meet Tin, my least favorite character in the Cosmere. No, actually,
She's
second
in there
least.
for literally like 20 pages, and you complained like actual story time 20 pages. I counted. I might be wrong, but it's like it is minuscule.
So the reason that Tin is in the book is Tin has to teach Shallan to be a spy and a
Hmm.
thief because
Hmm.
Shallan has all of her powers are geared towards that being her
Yes.
future,
Yes.
but she doesn't know. She doesn't even know to
Yeah.
do it. Like that's not
Yeah.
conceptually part of her brain. And
Hmm.
Tin is like trying to teach her.
She
Eventually,
is into like wordplay, and I mean, she goes to steal the thing from Yasna and
but
that kind of
badly.
stuff. So, yeah, yes, but she is not a natural. You have to learn somewhere, but she is a little subtle subterfuger.
And
That's a word.
then the other big thing that happens is that she's like, you're not really you're not really a light eyes like gonna
Hmm.
marry the prince or whatever.
Hmm.
And Tin's like, oh, don't worry, blah blah blah. And then she eventually works it out, and Sean's like, no, actually, like, I'm gonna marry this prince. Like, it's not a lie. Like, it's the truth. And Tin doesn't
Uh,
Tin want to like, she wants to like what's it, ransom her. Isn't that her like? She's like, oh, I
no.
can ransom
Well,
you off.
no, it's basic. Fuzzy on the details, but basically, because
Tin turns on
Tin's
her.
job was to kill Yasna, and then her people theoretically did that, but then like through talking, she finds out, oh, her ward is like looks like this. And she's like, wait, this is Yasna's ward, and Shallan sees like the message and is like, "Oh, you killed Yasna. Oh no, you know who I am. You know I'm not lying." Because Tin thinks that she's like running a con. She's like, "There's no way this girl on her own out in the wilderness with some slavers is going to the Shattered Plains to marry the most eligible bachelor in the Alethi Kingdoms." So yeah, and then Shallan summons a shard blade and
Yeah.
kills Tin.
And this is an interesting moment because this is where I realised that Shallan has a shard blade, but Andre realizes this in book one.
Oh, it's I because I it might have been partially because of how I became acquainted with the book. It was like an Audible ad where someone was talking about Stormlight Archive, and they explained like, okay, 10 seconds to some of the Shardblade thing. And multiple times throughout Way of Kings, they're like, oh, her secret only 10 seconds away or 10 heartbeats away or whatever. And they also explain that in like the prologue with Zeth and like, oh, okay, he has to wait 10 heartbeats to summon the Honor Blade and or like Dalinar and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So,
So yeah, that was really good. And then
you just say you hate this character. Now you're like, oh, that was really good.
the bit as good as when she
I guess he
dies.
was good because, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
she's
Okay.
dead. I just the Sanderson does this thing in one of his lectures where he talks about the Last Jedi and how he's like this this section of the Last Jedi doesn't need to happen because the story, like he's like, oh, the story doesn't need it, and that's the
Uh-huh.
part of book two that I feel the story doesn't really need. I feel like there
Is the
would have been.
whole like her traveling to the Shattered Plains? I think
I
she
would have
needs
cut
it
that
to.
if I was the editor. I'd have cut it, and then
But then I mean, you'd need to do a whole different way to get her involved with the Ghost Bloods and like get her moving in that direction
I feel
and
like there's a fun way to do it.
building
I'm not the
skills.
best writer in the world. I'm not Sanderson, so I'm not going to
Uh,
say. But like, I
uh,
would have liked
s-
to have seen her interact with the
uh,
rest of the cast quicker because that's what I wanted.
sure,
I'm like, I
sure.
want her to interact with the cast, and there's also the bloody bait and switch where she meets
Uh-huh.
Kaladin and pisses him off, which is annoying.
Uh-huh.
Because I was like, I just want these characters to interact because
And then
by
they do interact.
because yeah, I think yeah, in book one, Dalinar my favorite character, and in book
Uh-huh.
two, Shallan is easily my favorite character.
Hmm.
Just because she's such a, she's much more interesting than the others,
Hmm.
in terms of like background and what she's doing and how
Hmm.
her
Yeah,
different allegiances, might you
yeah.
say. She then, yeah, let's. Okay, I guess we should motor on. She does develop a relationship with Adeline,
Hmm.
and he takes her to
Which
watch a high
prompted
storm,
by
which is cool.
Yasna. Hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, Yasna's like set them up, hasn't she? She's like, you're gonna get
Hmm.
married, because I want you to join my
I'll help your
family.
family by marrying you off to maybe. It's
Yeah. She then, her whole thing is that she's investigating the Shattered Plains a lot in this
Mhm.
book, and
Mhm.
she figures out Urithiru, and
Mhm.
she is kind of part of the big ending sequence is that she's working on the Oathgate with Adeline, and she figures out how to use the
Renarin.
Oathgate and bring Renarin, and figures out how to bring people there.
Mhm. I mean, she does her whole. She's working with the Ghost Bloods,
Yeah.
and like I think that's kind of the main point of is her introduction to the Ghost Bloods and doing jobs for them and kind of getting
I, t-
initiated.
I told you guys my memory's terrible. So
Hmm.
as predictable, I've forgotten her entire story from this book.
Hmm. Yeah.
What else? There's one other bit is we said we were going to talk about it earlier. Yeah, the chasm bit where Kaladin and
Yeah.
Shallan fall into a chasm,
Hmm.
and at this point, Kaladin is disconnected from Syl,
Yep.
and Syl is like, because Syl like screams and dies or something when he tries to use
It,
Stormlight to save their lives,
maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
and they're hunted by this chasm fiend,
Hmm.
and at one point Shallan summons her shard blade and is like, Kaladin, don't tell anyone about this, but I've got a shard blade, and Kaladin can touch
It,
it and it doesn't scream because it's a
it,
live shard
it,
blade, right?
it's a very very confusing idea because we don't know when Shalon got that blade and which blade it was because spoilers for Rhythm of War, Shalon is bonded a second spren at the spawn she bonds at the end of Way of Kings and at the beginning, at the beginning of Words of Radiance is not her first spren.
Yeah,
And so we're like, where is this blade coming from? Like, oh, it's her family blade, but it doesn't scream. What's happening?
yeah,
So yeah, that's kind of the big chasm thing, and the Kaladin finding out, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not
yeah.
the only Radiant, or I'm someone else has some powers or something.
And the exact second that he figures that out is also when he figures out that he murdered her brother, right? Like that's basically that section.
No, no, no. That
Oh, is that earlier on?
Shalon finds out. Oh yes, yes. They're when they're riding out the high storm in the
Yeah,
chasm after killing the chasm fiend. I think he
that's when
suspects. Yeah,
Kaladin works it out. I feel
yes.
like.
Kaladin works it out. Shalon doesn't know. She finds out at some point.
I
But
feel like she
yeah,
finds out in a different book, right? Maybe.
Oathbringer, I think.
Dalinar. Let's shift it.
Hmm.
So the the big problems with the big thing that Dalinar's doing in this book is he thinks that he has to unite them, and unite them. He's like, oh, I'm gonna
Who?
unite the princes.
Well, it's more Way of Kings, but yes,
Oh,
that's
Way of
kind of.
Kings. But he starts the Knights Radiant again, doesn't he?
Yes,
And he's
yes.
like, I'm gonna
unite them is like continuous, and he's like, unite what them means keeps moving.
And he's like, I'm gonna put this Amaram dude because he seems trustworthy in charge of the Knights Radiant, and we find out that Amaram is not trustworthy.
I mean, we know that from the first book.
There's something going on in Amaram's house, right? Shallan does like a mission in his house, and he's doing some shady
He's
shit.
got a bunch of maps of the Shattered Plains and a bunch of like Storm Warden writing, which is not writing because men in Alethi culture aren't supposed to read or write. But he's like made glyphs, which are like the acceptable form of writing. But he's like made it so by reading them phonetically, it means something else, basically. So he's like cheating, and that's what the Ghost Bloods are like. Go look into this, see what he's doing, kind of stuff.
And then he's also banging Navani.
Alinar, yes.
Yeah.
Courting,
yeah. I feel like there's not much Dalinar in book 2. Or maybe
it's a lot of. I mean, there's the whole countdown thing. He's still having visions. There's the countdowns.
He's writing stuff, isn't he, during the visions now?
No, he's not. We find out it's Renarin.
Right. Yeah.
Renarin's sneaking into the rooms when people leave, and then writing, scrawling glyphs on the wall to count down until the Everstorm comes.
And he knows the Everstorm has come because of something that we find out later. So what else have we got for Dalinar? I mean, he bonds the Stormfather, which is the
Stormfather,
the big moment at the end, and he I can't remember what happens at all with any of the Amaram stuff. Like, that's completely left my brain.
It's kind of it sets up some mysteries that we still don't have answers to. So at the end of Way of Kings, do you remember what happens in the epilogue?
No.
Town shows up at in Alethkar, and and he's got his big, long, super like skinny, pointy shard blade, and then they get him transferred to the war camps at the Shattered Plains, and but they do Dalinar, because of Kaladin's comments and like, hey, this man is the reason I became a slave and like did all this terrible stuff. Dalinar looks into it and kind of sets a trap while Town is in like an insane asylum, and he puts a shard blade there, and we think it's the shard blade. We are told it is a shard blade that came to the Shattered Plains with Town, but the descriptions of them are completely different. And so Dalinar kind of is like, hey, we're going to go do this thing. And then he's like, okay, I need you to apologize to Kaladin here. And then he doesn't, and he refuses. He's like, I didn't do anything. He's like, I know you're a liar because I sent you to this cave to find the shard blades we hid. We set a trap and you fell for it. And so, he friendship over. It's Amaram is trying to set up Dalinar and Sadeas to work together again because he's leading a cult that Gavilar was leading before he died. Amaram kind of took that over, but didn't get any of the extra shit that Gavilar had that you will read about in the prologue of Wind and Truth.
Interesting.
So there is a lot of like backwards backstage backroom politicking and like backstabbing that we don't see happening. We only see because there's a part where it's like, oh, Dalinar was sick for like 10 days, and that's because he was bonding a shard blade, and he's like, I can't leave this room because I can't have people know I'm bonding a shard blade because it's got to be secret.
That was a cool moment when he whips it out.
Love it when Dalinar whips it out. So does Navani.
Yeah.
She's waiting the whole book for that.
And then the big thing, the big kind of climactic battle in this one is above the skies of Uruthuru on the plains. It's on the plains,
okay,
right?
okay, hold. Yeah, it's on the plains. Irithiru is on a
also
mountain,
happening.
like thousands of miles away. That's not related at all. Nothing really happens there except like until after the big battle. So yeah, the Dalinar gets what he wants. He gets a large number of Alethi troops to march out into the middle of the Shattered Plains during the weeping, during a long period where there should be no storm, and it's just going to rain a lot.
Yeah.
Just drizzle nonstop. It's going to be like a UK winter. I don't know.
I was going to say July.
Sure, yeah, July in the UK. Just wet. They leave Kaladin behind because he's injured from their chasm adventure and isn't bonded to Syl, so he can't heal. And but while all that's been happening, the Venli has convinced many of the Parshendi to take on storm form, a new form that the Alethi have not seen before, and are using that to basically trying to lure the Alethi out so they can end the fight by summoning a new storm.
Yeah, the climactic battle here for this book is, as we know, Seth versus Kaladin in the sky, because Kaladin has worked out basically how to do some flying shit by just.
I mean, we see him practicing that throughout the book.
Yeah. I like the way that it works is basically he just changes which way he's falling.
Yeah,
which is very funny.
He's just changing gravity for himself.
Yeah, great.
He's not actually like, he's not doing anything he's just, I'm falling this way and I'm getting really good at like controlling myself while I fall. He's basically skydiving in any direction he likes.
Great. I look forward to how janky it looks in any live action adaptation that will never happen.
They'll make it look. At first, it'll look really goofy because it should, because he's always messing up. But so yeah, he in the midst of this fight, Zeth shows up and once again tries to kill Dalinar. Very dramatic fight, very good fight, and then Zeth almost succeeds and launches Dalinar into the sky. Which amateur move doesn't finish him off. He's like, no, I'm just gonna shoot you up into the sky and let gravity do the work. And then Kaladin delivers the most un-Kaladin line. Like, no, there are these moments where the dialogue gets very odd in Sanderson books, and especially in Stormlight Archive. Like, it happens a lot in Words of Radiance where Scylla's like, reach forth thy hand. And like, nobody talks like that ever in the books when he's swearing the third ideal. And then right after this, it's like, you sent him to the skies to die, but the skies are mine. Just like, okay, it's a fun line, but also it doesn't match like how he speaks ever. Like, why is he suddenly speaking like that? And it happens again in Words of Radiance. He has a flair for the dramatic.
Somebody complained. I was listening to a review of a Sanderson book where they talked about how he referred to something as cringeworthy, and he was like, "Look, fantasy people would not say the term cringeworthy. It's a very 2023 term."
Hey, but the way Sanderson writes these books is they're being translated from their native language into our language. So, hey, maybe they're not saying cringeworthy, but that's the best translation we have. Yes.
Good. Get out of jail free, Brando.
I believe that is the Tolkien explanation.
People complain a lot about his writing of Wheel of Time because he uses a lot of modern terminology in his books that they don't use, that Jordan never used. He refers to something as a kill zone or something. and it's like, look, Jordan would have said this was a killing field or something like that. There's like a whole like blog article that I read that was all about it, and I was like, look, he finished it. Just give the man his praise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different man wrote the rest of the story. Like, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
The story is the story, theoretically. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
fun aside. So I didn't know this until I was like 6 books in, but Jordan didn't outline his books. He just like kept writing. And when Sanderson got all of his notes together after he died, his wife gave him all of the notes. Sanderson tried to put them in a single Word document, and it crashed Word and like blue screened the computer because it was such a big document. It's something like someone was saying something like 7,500 pages or something insane of all these notes that he had.
Anyway, go ChatGPT, please compile this into a single document.
There's been a huge movement amongst the Wheel of Time fandom for it to get a Wheel of Time AI so that they can scrape this stuff and ask it questions.
I remember seeing something about that, which is just...
Apparently, all of the notes have been printed, and they are available in like hundreds and hundreds of volumes in like a museum of literature or something in the US.
Sure.
And people like Wheel of Time scholars like book time to go and read it.
Are they not on a wiki? Like, everything Sanderson does is in
public.
A wiki.
I think it's private. It's mad.
I bet. Whatever. Yeah, I guess. Whatever.
So that's the end of Words of Radiance. Most people's favourite book in the Cosmere. The end of the book, Navani and Dalinar get married.
Yes.
Dalinar
with the Stormfather overseeing it, because no priest will, like, the Vorinism is like, this is not allowed. You're like your brother and sister, because Navani was the wife of Dalinar's brother.
And and the Vorin priests don't like Dalinar anyway.
Yes. Well, because Dalinar keeps saying God is dead.
Yeah. I mean, touche. And he then actually forms the Knights Radiant at Uruthuru with Kaladin and Shallan, and then Renarin's like, also me, I've bonded as Bren.
Yes.
Which obviously I think we'd all worked out, but it was cool. I thought it was kind of anticlimactic that he's like, me also too, I've done it.
Yeah, he's also like autistic and doesn't like, is not great at social situations and cues and whatnot. So I think it's appropriate for him.
And then
his spren doesn't like to be seen because
it's a void spren.
It is a corrupted mist spren.
Corrupted spren.
It's not a void spren. Void spren are what give the
fused powers, right?
the listeners, give them forms of powers.
So
like storm form.
Yeah. So the other big thing that happens is Nail revives Seth after the fight by healing him with Stormlight, and gives him
Fabrial, which we have not seen before.
Oh.
And then we have seen in a vision, maybe we haven't. I don't know, but yeah, Fabrial.
Is that the vision that Dalinar has of the Knights Radiant, where they're all like halo dropping from the sky?
Yes.
That's like legitimately one of the coolest scenes. But yeah, so Nail revives him and is like, also, here's a sword you can have, and it's Nightblood from Warbreaker. So if you haven't read Warbreaker, sorry, I've spoiled that for you. Also, speaking of Warbreaker, Zahel in Words of Radiance is the sword trainer, is the sword master, and there are a lot of clues. I worked this out actually in Words of Radiance, but it's Vasha from Warbreaker. So some good Warbreaker tie-ins there. And sorry,
there's another big thing.
My headphones keep saying low battery every 10 minutes. Which is,
I mean, you could just turn them off because you're plugged in. You'll still get sound.
Oh
It'll
yeah,
just turn off the noise canceling.
I didn't know. Yeah,
But I'm wearing maybe the same headphones as you, or like one generation
no, we have the
older.
same
I'm wearing
ones.
the threes. I'm wearing the threes. So
Now it just sounds weird. It sounds like I'm in a
yeah,
bottle of
the
water.
sound is not as good, but it's still fine.
It's better than
I
nothing.
never turn the battery off. Uh, so there's one more death that happens. Who dies at the end of Words of
Oh,
Radiance?
yeah, the big one, the fun one, which is Adeline just
Hmm.
murks Sadius. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. Sadius does not have time to summon his Shard Blade. Adeline just
Mhm.
knifes him, just stabs him in the throat.
And it's not even
Um,
that he doesn't have time to summon his shard. Well, yeah, he does it because they just like fight on some stairs and fall down, and then yeah, they get in a bad spot. And like shard blade's not good for one-on-one interpersonal back alley
especially
knifing.
not some dude who's 20 years your
Yeah.
junior and
But,
is
oh,
the
like yeah.
greatest hand-to-hand fighter or whatever in the Alethi race.
Well, greatest sword duelist. Yeah. I like if he went into like a wrestling match, he would probably lose. But
But he
yeah.
dominates Sadius here,
Yes.
stabs him in the
Mhm.
neck, and then throws him
In the
off.
eye, I
Stabs him in the
believe.
eye, yeah, and then
Uh,
throws him off Uritharu.
no, he just leaves them.
Oh,
But the Oathbringer, the shard blade, his dad's old shard blade that he used to buy all the bridgemen, he throws that out a window.
right. And one of the big things is that also that Uritharu, I think we find this out later, but Uritharu is so big, they don't find Sadius's body for a while, right?
But yeah, it's like days before they come across his body,
Which is fun.
or like at least hours, but I think it's days. Yeah.
So that's Words of Radiance. We've done it.
We also find out Yasna not dead
Oh yeah, that's the
because
like
she meets Hoyd in the epilogue.
yes. And I remember thinking that Yasna, I didn't think she was dead.
I was like, there's no way, right?
Yeah, I was
Like
like, she
they
seems
build
too
up this
important.
character so much, and then, but I don't know. It was also my second Cosmere book, my second Sanderson book. So I was like,
Maybe she's
maybe.
dead. So yeah, and Yasna has some fantastic stuff in Rhythm of War. I think is where I like her a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah, that's where we get most of her point of view stuff.
So I don't remember any of the interludes in this book, not one single one, apart from is the Taravangian one in this, where you find out about the good days and the bad days. Is that in Words of Radiance?
Yes. Yeah, I believe that happens here. We get yes, you do find out. Okay, he's like smart on some days, too smart on some days, and very empathetic but not very intelligent on other days. And
And
you get
we find out on his smartest day he created a thing he calls the pattern, right? It's called a pattern?
the diagram.
The diagram. He's this thing called the diagram, and the idea for the diagram is that it's basically his like this is the way to save everyone.
Mhm,
But it's also like he has to do a lot of bad shit to do it.
mhm.
And he's been following the diagram ever since creating it.
It it's basically like a ridiculous flow chart of like, okay, if this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do this. Pay attention to this. Make sure this doesn't happen. And that's why he like sent Zeth to kill all the kings. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, we either need to kill Dalinar, but if we can't kill him, then we need to befriend him, and then X, Y, Z. And then there's the flashbacks with Shallan, where we find out, okay, she murdered her mother and her father.
Yeah. Her dad was a dick anyway. And her mum tries
Yes,
to kill her, doesn't she, when she sees that she's a Surge Binder.
we don't know.
I thought that was in this book.
We don't know because like it's many people theorize her mother is one of the heralds.
I had heard this. This was mentioned in a video that I watched a couple of months ago. And I was like, this all sounds sensible. But
And it is very, very possible that everything that is happening is Shallan's fault.
yeah. And that would make
But
a lot of sense for her
some things
character.
were in motion before
Yeah.
that happened.
one of the
But the reason town comes back and like things are really bust open is possibly Shalon's fault.
and
But
the
maybe not her fault, but yeah.
yeah, and we also get to see Hoyd meet her, and he gives her some fun tidbits. We get to see that her dad's very abusive, and the way that her dad works is that he's like, I can't beat you up, Shalon, but I will beat people up and make you watch, which sucks.
Yeah.
And then he tries to kill her brother, right? Her younger brother. And that's like when she's like, no, and she
He
kills him.
leaves him. Oh yes, yes, older brother. But yes, he does. There's he's gonna run away, and then he's like, "You're not gonna run away from me. You're my son. You're my oldest son because the oldest son ran away to join some secret organization and is threatening us, and also getting murdered by Kaladin." Yeah. So other interludes.
Andre's consulting his 7 leather-bound versions of
No,
Lords of
I'm going through my mental Rolodex. I don't think there's anything else that significantly important. Let me see. Main issue. Oh yeah, we just get a lot of like who are they?
There's a Zahel
the
interlude and a Tal interlude, apparently.
Yeah,
They sound good.
there's Zale Zahel is when Kaladin comes to him after the Zeth fight in the castle and is like, I want you to train me. And that's where you get like a good hint that he is not just a sword master.
Yeah.
Ishonai is a big part, and you're getting a lot of like you get to actually see singer culture or listener culture and what's going on there, and that like, hey, they're just people, and actually they don't want to like they're called the Voidbringers or whatever, but they're just like, hey, we're just like farming and making paintings, and some people are getting busy, and a lot of humanizing stuff for the listeners in this book,
I
which
really
continues.
I really like the listeners as characters, as like a people. I think they're super good. We've missed, obviously, we haven't talked about Relaine yet.
Yes. There's the Relaine is the Parshman who gets put into Bridge 4 as like a test, and then he's like, Kaladin, I gotta go. I gotta leave. I'm a spy. I don't. Does he say he's a spy?
He says he's a spy, I think.
Maybe he's like, I gotta leave. He's like,
he's like playing dumb the whole time, isn't he? And then he just like turns to Kaladin and he's like,
he just goes to Kaladin's like,
I speak fluent English. Like, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
And isn't he like the top spy? Like, doesn't it somehow come out that
he is
like
a spy. I don't know if he's the top. He's just that, like, his training is as a spy. I don't think he is the spy, or like he's not 007.
Yeah. 00 shard. That's bad.
Bond. Relaine Bond. Bond. Nail Bond. Aha.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I just want to see more of the Pure Lake. Pure Lake it owns such a good idea. Just like loads of people live in like ankle high water.
I don't know what you just said. Your audio keeps like cutting out on my end. I like through Discord. Hopefully it's fine in the recording. It's all because it's on your end. But
yeah, I'm sure we'll be fine.
Every once in a while, you'll be like saying a sentence, and then your audio will disappear from me, and then I'll get the end of the sentence, and I'm like, that sounded like a phrase or an idea.
Let's cross our fingers that we don't have to record this 2-hour video again. I was just saying, I think the Pure Lake is cool.
Oh yeah. I hope we see more of it, but at some point, I think he's set up so many places in the world. I think at some point, some of these things will become important again. Like Pure Lake, probably massive source of like fresh water. I think that would be important. I don't know.
Aren't the Skybreakers training in the Pure Lake in?
Yeah.
In one of the interludes. I nailed it.
That's the next book, but yes.
Yeah. Oathbringer. Nailed it.
Yes. We can skip over Edge Dancer. That gives us more of like the world and shows us like what Nail and Zeth, like, hey, Zeth is alive and he's got weird stuff going on, and also Nail is nuts and is just murdering people left and right, which we do see, and we get the Lift interlude in Words of Radiance to
I think,
introduce the character. But
yeah. So it's widely known that I think Lift sucks. And I think because Lift is my least favorite POV, this book is terrible for me. It's like a 2 star.
it's got the most incredible reveal, like,
Yes,
oh
the
my god,
Krem
what is
dudes.
happening?
The
Yes,
Kremling dudes. That is
uh,
absolutely like it's worth reading this terrible, terrible book to find out about that one cool thing.
mhm. The
But
sleepless,
yeah,
that keep that, like, once you hear about that, then you're like, oh, they keep showing up. Like anytime there's a weird Kremling, that's the sleepless.
incredibly cool, fantastic idea. Like a colony of
Hmm.
insects as a person.
Hmm.
Genuinely incredible. Great world building. Bravo, Sanderson. Why did you hide it in the worst thing you've written that I've read? I'm not saying that people shouldn't read Edge Dancer. Unfortunately, I am telling you that you should read it and that it is terrible. Oathbringer.
Oh,
So, um, the let's talk prologue. So, the Oathbringer prologue. Is this the Yasna one?
I've got it right here. This
I'm
is the no, this Yasna is Words of Radiance. Ishonai is
shit.
the
It's the Ashonai
Springer.
one.
Yeah.
But Ashonai is genuinely awesome. I've got a lot of time for her.
Hmm.
I really like Venli too. Unlike the Venli stan, I'm the person who
I
likes her.
I I disliked her less on this reread of Rhythm of War, but I also am like, you were such a bad person. You were so insufferable, and I still don't like her flashbacks. But I have a little more sympathy for the way she's been manipulated now than I did when I initially read. But yes.
Yeah, I mean we'll get to Thingamajig.
Mhm.
We'll get to Venli a lot in Rhythm of War. But
Mhm.
so this book starts with Kaladin going home, right? That's like
He's, yeah, I want to go because the Everstorm comes through. The Everstorm is a storm which blows the wrong way, and the world is not meant for a storm that blows west to east. It's meant
yeah.
for east to west, and so it's causing a lot of damage. He's like, I need to check on my family because a lot of weird stuff has happened, and I need to make sure they're okay.
And I think that this is where we get a bit of the payoff for the flashbacks in book one, which I thought generally I could have actually done without.
Mhm.
I feel like I talked in Words of Radiance how I would have cut the tin
Mhm.
section. I probably would have cut the flashbacks for Kaladin in book one because I feel like it's
Mhm.
more interesting to have that stuff hinted at than to be explained it, if that makes sense. I may be the one man on the hill shouting that, but I'm
Mhm.
happy to be
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And but I do like that it's you get it going full center, and we come back to it here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Knowing all of these characters so well and
Mhm.
seeing what's happened to them in the intervening 7 years or whatever is really good. I really like this section when he goes home, and like the whole town's fucked, and it's under Voidbringer control.
Um,
Isn't
Not
it?
even. There's nobody. Everyone, because of the storm, everyone is just like moved into
No, the mayor's
the
house or whatever.
yeah, and it's not even Voidbringer control. It's like it's they're just Parshendi. They're just like all the slaves got like their minds back and can like think properly and like quickly and express ideas and speak in like full sentences, actually. So, and we find out that the Voidbringers are not the Parshanti.
Hmm.
Um, but Yeah,
That was a
the
fantastic reveal. That's probably the best.
which
That's
comes
like the
later, and
best reveal in this book.
yeah, which is also like really good setup. But like
Mm,
you thought you were from this place.
yeah.
Like you don't look like anything else on this planet. Uh,
I also like that it completely recontextualizes the first two books because you're
yes.
like, oh, this is what's going on in the prelude, and this is why this all relates to this and that. And I really liked it.
I don't know if it recontextual. It does recontextualize the conflict and like, okay, who is in the right, who is the bad guy, who is the good guy, and there isn't one,
Mm,
like relative. There are people who are good and bad on both sides, and et
yeah.
cetera, et cetera. But um, I that is, I appreciate about the book. There is not a clear answer. Like,
Mm,
Lord of the Rings, Sauron bad.
yeah.
Orcs bad. Here, it is less clear cut, which is good.
Sauron will probably get elected in 2024.
This is true. This is very true.
So
It's too much vision, though.
the big revelation,
Ba-dum-tsh.
the big revelation is that Kaladin's parents have had another kid.
Mhm.
And I can't remember what the kid's name is. It begins with an A, right?
Orodin,
Oradin, yeah.
I believe.
And Kaladin's dad hates Kaladin because Kaladin isn't a doctor. Um,
He hates. He has some strong feelings about Kaladin's career choice, but yeah.
yeah. And then Kaladin, his love interest from his childhood, turns out when he left, she married the mayor,
Yep.
who was like 70, and that was gross.
Not 70, but yes, old man. Like old enough to be your father.
Yeah. And there's a good kind of conflict, well, confrontation, I guess, there. And some shit goes down, and then Kaladin's like, look, actually, I'm a fucking Knight Radiant. And he does some cool surge binding, and everything is a pretty good time. That's like, that, like I said, that really makes sitting through the flashbacks of book one worth it. Yeah, there he is. There's our boy.
There's our boy.
Anyone watching this, not just listening to it, I don't know why you would, but it's fine. Um, yeah,
My beautiful face right here.
yeah, good point. Very good point. Andre's got the Stormlight miniatures, so he's been holding them up. They're all very cool.
I've painted a few soldiers. Hard, but they're small.
We got like Roman
I'm not
shields.
good at it.
I didn't know that.
I got a few. Parshendi as well.
I like the look of Parshendi. I've seen some fan
They're
art
cool.
where they don't look like how I've seen in some of the actual art, and I'm like, this looks cool as well, with the like ridges on the face and stuff.
Well, I mean, there are so many different kinds of Parshendi because of their forms and
Yeah, good
war
point.
form, storm form, regal form, or regal forms. Yeah.
So the next thing that Kaladin does is meet up with some free Parshmen, right? That's like the next big thing for
Yes,
him.
yes, yes.
And
He
he like,
encounters
yeah, he
some of
like,
the Parshmen.
yeah, he meets these free Parshmen, and like he like starts to bond with them, and he's like, oh fuck, actually, like maybe I can't kill all these Parshmen. Like maybe I shouldn't be the world's greatest soldier.
It's not even that. It's just he's like, oh, everyone thinks like, oh, they're going to be so destructive because they're going to be like the listeners on the, they're going to be like shooting lightning and stuff. And he's like, oh, they're just playing cards, but they don't really know how to play cards because they've only seen it played, but they were also in a complete haze that entire time. But yeah, so he starts like, oh, these are just people. They're not monsters. And so, yeah, he starts having doubts about what, or, he starts second guessing like the conflict and all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I think that this is a really good, because there's obviously one of the most interesting parts in this book is Kaladin kind of coming to the realization that maybe there are no goodies, there are no baddies. Like, everyone has their motivations, and none of them are invalid.
Yeah.
And yeah, very, very interesting stuff from Kaladin in this book. I think this is like the start of his like slow descent into his state in Rhythm of
Yeah.
War.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I liked it at this point. It doesn't 100% sit well with me in Rhythm of War, but it's fine. It's still a good book. It's just, I don't know.
Hey, depression doesn't sit well with me either.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Not with most people.
So eventually, Kaladin like escapes what's going on and goes back to the Shattered Plains, and there is a mission being launched to go to Kolinar to see what's going on because no one's heard from
Goes
them.
back to Urithiru, which is
Yeah.
not at the Shattered Plains.
Yeah, I always forget that it's not there. So he goes to Urithiru, and then they're like,
Yeah.
right, we're gonna go to Kolinar, and they're like, well, the easy way to get there is for Kaladin to fly you there. So he ends up flying Shallan and Adeline and Elhokar. Because Elhokar's like, it's my city, I'm the king, I'm going to go see what's going on. My wife and kid are there, and blah, blah, blah.
He also takes a couple other Windrunners or Bridge 4 members who... Did they bond Spren? Maybe. But yeah, he takes two other people with them.
Because some of them can piggyback on Kaladin, can't they? Like,
yes, squires. Yes, and they Scar and Drehi, I think. I believe are the two he takes with.
Yeah, some of them piggyback, but some of them have gone up from piggybacking to bonding a Spren like Kaladin has.
Yes.
Great stuff in Kolinar. The Kolinar section is absolutely my favourite part of this book.
It's good. Adolin being like, I got a place. It's my tailor.
Yeah. that was very funny. Like, Adelaide being obsessed with fashion is a very funny like character trait for him. Yeah, I think the Kolinar section...
What does Kaladin do in Kolinar?
Oh, he joins the guards, doesn't he? And he meets Vivenna, aka
Azure.
And she's like, they're like, oh, she's like a badass. She's the captain of the guard, and she's super cool and super heroic, and she's saving the city. And then it turns out that it's because she's got the magic from Warbreaker. She's got breaths, and
we don't ever find that out though. But yeah, she fights in a very unique way, and they all think she's like a surge binder because they haven't met. Well, I mean, she is a surge binder because surge binding is just using investiture. They think she's a radiant, and they they never find out exactly what's going on with her, but we keen-eyed readers can find out and be like, oh, I see.
I think I worked out she was Vivenna like very, very early on, like the first scene she's in. There's like
maybe I'd have to go back into our conversations to see.
I feel like the first scene she's in is like a fight scene, and there's stiffened clothes or something that's like, oh, that's
she's using a
breaths.
scarf to fight, and or like a cape and wrapped around her arm, and
yeah, that's what clued me in. So yeah, that's very good. This is like, that section is almost like the biggest Cosmere crossover. That's like the first to me
so far. Yeah,
that feels like the first big crossover, and it's interesting that Sanderson's chosen Warbreaker to do it because Warbreaker is obviously a standalone kind of.
Yeah, and I mean, Nightblood coming in and Words of Radiance, and Nightblood was inspired by whatever the group, but like the group of 5 returned or whatever in Warbreaker, like the fancy ones that Vasher belongs to, and the other guys. They went to Roshar and they saw the shard blades. They're like, "Oh, dang, that's cool. We want one of those." And then they tried to make one, and the result was Nightblood.
Yeah, very cool. We actually didn't speak about one thing at the beginning of this, which is that I do not care for and do not read Word of Brandon. and you're like a big fan of the
Oh yeah.
Willard Brandon stuff. But I'm like very anti it. I just want what's in the books and nothing else. And I don't
There
want to
is
know when I'm wrong.
sometimes he says stuff that is like, okay, this you didn't need to share that. You didn't need to talk about that yet. Like just let it. But if it's stuff like I don't know, like I don't think he's ever going to get into the history of Nightblood or whatever. I think that stuff is fun to know and like helps for theory crafting. But also if you don't want to know like what's going to happen ahead of time or whatever, there is some stuff where I'm like, okay, don't share that. Like there's stuff about characters in uh in Stormlight where I'm like, why would you share it? That would be such a cool reveal in the story. And like you get like hints, but like save the reveal, man. Come on.
And one of the big things as well is that I very much don't want to know things like who the prologue point of view is or who the flashback character is. It's impossible to avoid that and make bookish content on the internet, so I do know it for Wind and Truth. But I mean, I do think I'm going to try and stay as blind as possible for book 6 when it comes out in 2047.
2030.
Might as well be 2047 at this point.
Somebody spoiled Vivenna being in Stormlight for you.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, that's what you said in 2022, March of 2022. Someone told you that she was in there, and then because you knew she was in there, you pieced it together.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
it wasn't me.
I did think I was smart enough to have worked that out. I think I might have watched a video about Warbreaker, and someone just casually dropped that she was in Oathbringer, and then I worked it out.
I don't think they said which part she was in. You say like I didn't know which, but you thought she was in like Words of Radiance or something.
Right.
But,
yeah, because
anyway.
I read Warbreaker before Words of Radiance because someone was like, oh, the characters cross over. I was like, oh, fuck's sake, I've got to go read this now. Vivenna is great. The whole mission in Kholinar is fantastic. We'll talk more
very good.
About
you get
Shallan's
like,
stuff later.
Yeah.
But the big moment is obviously we find out that there's an unmade, which is like a horrific monster spren. And I can't remember what the one that's in
me neither. They've got
there's two on
very
and they have
they have so there's three. There's actually three. There's Sajanat, which is the which is like lives in the
gate,
creates the corrupted spren. Creates the corrupted spren and like sent Renar and his spren. Lives in like mirrors and stuff. There's the Heart of the Revel, which made everybody just have like a party all night, every night.
Yeah, and they're all dying during this party and stuff.
Kind of. I mean, they're just like gorging themselves on food and stuff. There's nothing like. So like people are just like doing drugs and gorging and having sex and stuff. And then the other thing is though I can't remember the name of the other one. But it's the one that has taken over Azadon. Distant relative of Kaladin. And
I did not know that she was related to Kaladin.
Somehow, like on Kaladin's mom's side, they are like related. That Ward of Brandon. I'm sorry, but also it doesn't matter. But yeah, based on
sometimes right, Will of Brandon to me is he's colouring in the lines, and sometimes he's drawing new lines, and I want him to draw the lines in the book. Do you know what I mean? Like colour in, fine.
Somehow it's like distant relation to Kaladin. But
I'm still very anti Word of Brandon. Brandon, stop it. If you're watching this, cut it out.
Maybe I search the copper mine for the unmade.
So the big thing that happens in Kholinar is Moash turns up. So we've kind of forgot to talk about Moash. But Moash has joined up with the bad dudes,
Uh-huh.
and he just turns up and he kills Elokar at the exact second that Elokar is saying his radiant oath,
Mhm.
which is incredibly cool, and heartbreaking. And I kind of thought it was going to happen because I felt like Elokar was getting this big redemption arc. And you're like, once
Uh-huh.
he's had this redemption arc, that's kind of the end of his story. Like, his storyline is finished.
Uh-huh.
And as his big redemption arc is happening, Moash is like, nope.
It's as it's starting, like, he
Mm.
gets to try and be the hero, but then he doesn't get to like do anything with it. But yeah, you, you like saying like, oh man, I'm loving Elokar in this book, and I'm so excited for like where his story goes, and I'm like, little does he know.
You made a post about me, didn't you, on Reddit? And you're
Yes,
like,
I did post about you on
he's
Reddit.
finally he's coming. He's getting to Oathbringer.
About to ruin this whole man's career.
Elokar is definitely he's done.
Yeah,
He's not kinging anymore.
yeah.
Then they eventually, they escape Kolinar, but basically all they can do is bring the baby, right? Well, not the baby, the
Yes,
Gavinor.
well, no, they don't even do that. So Elokar dies,
Yeah.
and Kaladin like breaks down because he's seeing the Parshendi that he met in the forest are there fighting and killing the guard that he joined. So he's like, no, they're all good people. They're just people.
Mm.
And then Elokar gets murked right as he's beginning to say the oaths, and then Kaladin like goes into shock, and Adolin pulls him out,
Mm.
and is like, we got to go. And then they get swapped into Shadesmar, leaving behind Scar and Drehi and Elokar's son, Gavinor. Think that's, yeah,
Yeah, it's
Gavinor.
Gavinor, yeah.
And so they're like, oh my God, we left behind all these people. But then they're in Shadesmar with Vivenna, and like, oh no, what is happening?
Yeah.
We're screwed. So yeah, they actually leave behind Elokar's son there. But we find out at the end of the book that Scar and Drehi like
Got him.
were able to fly away and get them out of there and
Yeah.
save Gavinor.
But yeah, very, very cool. Like I said before, the Kolinar section is the best section of that book. A lot of people don't like the Shadesmar stuff.
I love it.
I do like it as well. I really like the Maya, the ghost of Adeline's Sharp Blade.
Deadeye.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely that's the coolest Adeline plot line, and I really want to see
Yeah.
like that's the thing that I want to see resolved, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, does Adeline, resurrect her and bond her as a Spren, become a Radiant, or does it
Well-
become something different?
We see through Sunlit Man. Spoilers for Sunlit Man.
Yeah,
That like there is some sort of like
there's a
Deadeye
mechanism for
bond that can
Deadeye,
happen. But we don't know. Also, it's very confusing. Sunlit Man is like a whole other thing that like we could talk about outside of this, but you should read Sunlit Man before you read Wind and Truth, because there's like some teaser stuff. I guess you could read it after, but there's like fun teaser stuff for Wind and Truth in there. So
The interesting thing is, I can't remember what it was. Somebody was saying on BookTube the other day, they were like, "Oh, the books you need to have read to read Stormlight 5, and they didn't mention Sunlit Man." And I was like, "Well, Sunlit Man,
you don't need to, but it
complimentary
relates. It relates. It's like it's a little teaser of like some things that'll happen.
Yeah,
And like you can go in without like it'll be fine if you don't read it before, but you should probably read every other like non-secret project book, I would assume,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
because like based on the Lost Metal, there is going to be a lot of stuff and then some
It's
in
all
this book.
canon. Is the phrase?
I mean, after the Lost Metal, Sanderson said the gloves are off.
I'm
So
excited.
like he's
This
not.
is the stuff I'm into the Cosmere for. I'm into
Yeah,
it for
exactly.
the Avengers Infinity War. That's
Yeah, exactly.
that's what I'm expecting here is a like Infinity War slash Endgame level book. And I'm up for it.
Uh,
I'm
maybe
excited.
I don't know. It's hard to say because
The thing
uh,
is, right? So, I mean, we can. This is a real tangent now, but
yeah.
the next places we're going in the Cosmere, right? We're looking at Mistborn and
Hmm.
Elantris sequels, right?
Hmm.
And that feels to me like taking that step down, if that makes sense, in terms of we're not going to have a Stormlight book for a long time.
Yeah.
Brandon's going like it feels to me like this is the peak. This is the end of the first half of the Cosmere.
Kind. He's also said that the end of Mistborn era 2 was like the end of an era, but that might just be specifically like I think this is like a significant break because it is a break in all of the everything is like at a stopping point and like or everything is at a new starting point basically. So it like yeah, Wind and Truth is kind of the end of an era. And but it also as it's ending it's going and here is what's coming in the next era is like all of these interconnected things and like Mistborn era 3 is going to be absolutely wild I bet for that kind of stuff. He said the gloves are off. If you haven't read everything like that's on you.
Yeah, and that was why I wanted to read Elantris before reading
Hmm.
this book.
Yep.
So it's like I needed to read it. I'm really glad I read it as well.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed that I didn't read it earlier, but
Hmm.
Celebi, it meant that I got to have a good Sanderson experience leading
Yeah.
into Wind and
Hmm.
Truth, which is a terrible name for a book. It's bad.
It's,
We all know it's bad. It's fine.
he wanted it. Well, the in book name is the Knights of Wind and Truth, but it was too long or whatever for the marketing.
Mm.
But yeah, okay, so
Boo
yeah,
worms.
we there's Kaladin to go to Shadesmar. What
Um,
happens? What happens in Shadesmar?
I don't remember any of that. Zero.
Uh,
Does
okay,
Maya fight for Adeline? There's like we're seeing where that happens, or is that in Rhythm of War?
that's Rhythm of War.
That's Rhythm of War. That's my
Well,
favorite
there's
bit in Rhythm of War.
yeah.
I think.
Oh God, it's brutal. So they're like, okay, we need to get out of Shadesmar. We need to figure out a way out of here. And then they're like, infighting, especially between like Vivenna and Kaladin. And Kaladin's like, we need to save Dalinar because he sees a vision at a lighthouse during a high storm. He sees a vision of Dalinar and like, we need to go save Dalinar. And they're trying to figure out where to go. They're like, okay, we need to get to another Oath Gate. So they do that. But while they're doing that, the fused, which are the ancient immortal beings who can take over the Parshendi bodies and have been doing this fight for millennia, are hunting them. In Shadesmar, they get involved with another honor spren, which is what Kaladin's spren is, and the honor spren are like, we need to refine Sylphrena, the ancient daughter, Kaladin's spren. And so that starts a whole thing where they meet Noten, who is like a ship captain and very like honorable. And then they get them to near what is the French place? The island, the traders. They've got big eyebrows. I can't remember the name of the. If I read it, I would know. But they've got
Yeah,
big eyebrows. They trade stuff. They speak with a French accent.
Risen is one.
Yes. Who also kind of important, but
Azish, not the Azish.
no,
The
not the Azish. Sigil is Azish,
yeah,
and Lift,
lift to
the prime
Azish, kind
minister.
of. Yeah.
Lift is no, Lift is Erie, Irali. She's from the islands up in the north. Erie, not Irali. Irali are like have gold hair and like silver skin and stuff.
Thalen, Thalen's.
Thalen, there we go. Yeah, so they're on their way to Thalen City, where there seems to be a big battle brewing.
And
And we can come back and talk about
yeah.
the battle kind of at the end because it's big.
So the big
Uh,
Shallan stuff then. Shallan's big
mhm,
thing is multiple personalities. This is like
mhm.
the book where it really comes to the fore,
Yep.
and she is juggling two alternative personalities,
Yep.
one called Veil and one called
Mhm.
Radiant. We also have kind
Yep.
of a love triangle,
Nope. That's the. Oh yes.
a
Yes.
love
Okay.
quadrangle, I guess, where Radiant is like in love
Oh.
with Adeline and
Well,
Veil
it's a
is in love
pentagon,
with
right?
Kaladin,
You
and
got
Shallan
five
doesn't
people in
really
this
know.
relationship. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Sure.
three of them are Shallan. Um, and
Mhm.
I really like this about this character. Um, this is, I mean, I think Sanderson has said that he's like, oh, I don't know if I did multiple personality disorder right, but
Mhm.
I think that from a like pop culture point of view, I think it was handled well.
Mhm.
And I just really enjoyed the like fractured identities kind of
Mhm.
whole story. There's a load of great scenes in a bar in Uruthuru, which is fun.
Mhm.
That someone was like, "We found an ancient city. What if we serve booze here?" And then there's a lot of stuff going on with her training with Adeline to become a good swordsman.
Mhm.
Well, swordswoman, I guess. And then
Knight.
obviously, yeah, she's involved with all of the Kholinar stuff, and she has a great
Yeah. So
scene
okay,
with Hoyd.
there's like one main thing that happens in the first kind of parts of the book, like the first third
Mm.
is so there's like kind of three main acts to the book. First act, do you remember what she's doing?
She's investigating Uruthuru, right?
Yes, for something particular.
No idea.
The Ghost Bloods task her with finding an unmade Reshafir, the
Oh
Midnight
yeah,
Mother, who creates like weird darkness creatures.
I remember this.
Yes, and so she scares off Reshafir. We don't know exactly how or why. There's some theories around like around like light weavers and their powers and the way they can interact with
Light and
Reshafir.
dark, and yeah.
Yeah, maybe. And like they do similar things. They can do similar things, so they're like opposites. So that's kind of her first thing.
And then her and Adeline obviously getting closer, which is
Hmm.
nice. They do make a good couple.
Hmm.
Then obviously she's involved
I
in.
hated the love triangle.
No, yeah, I don't think the love triangle works. But it's interesting what it happens. The love, pentagon or
Oh,
whatever.
it made me so uncomfortable. Like it was I just like no, just don't do this to my boy
Of
Adolin.
course, yeah,
Don't.
he's your favorite
Oh no,
character.
don't. Yeah, he is. And like Oathbringer cemented that. Like he was like, oh, okay, I like this guy. Then it's like, this is my tailor. It's like, okay, no, he is number one with a bullet.
And yeah, for me, he becomes more interesting with the Maya stuff in the next book.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, Shallan also goes to Kolinar. Like I was saying, she has a
Colin.
fantastic conversation with Hoyd. It was one of the best Hoyd moments in the
Hmm.
series.
Sure. Yeah.
He tells
Well,
her he does a
do you
story
remember?
right with dust. He does he do sand?
Yeah.
He does the
Yeah.
sand
Oh,
shit from
he
White
does
Sand.
some. No, no, no. That's a different. Well, yes, but that's how he figures out that she's there
Right.
because the sand from White Sand just tells you if investiture is like around, and so she's done like a disguise, but then he's like, "What the hell?" He's
He's
like
like,
his
someone's
sand
here.
turns white or turns black, and he's like, "Someone's here," and figures out. But that he can do some like minor light weaving because of just like other powers he has from Yolen, and it's called light weaving, but it's not as powerful as
Light weaving with a
Rosharan.
capital
Yeah,
L.
it's yes, as Rosharan light weaving, and Yeah. So that stuff's good. Do you remember why she went to Kolinar?
She's doing a job, right, for the Ghost Bloods. Is that it?
Kind of. She's running away from Yasna.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
She's
Because
like
she's in like
this
the
is too much pressure.
yeah.
I don't want to be like locked down. Like I had so much freedom when I thought
Mm,
Yasna was dead because I wasn't her ward, and like I want to be me. I want to do stuff. I want to go here. But if I'm
mm,
just like, oh, I have to study and take notes, and I don't like that.
mm,
So she just like I need to go to Kolinar to run away.
mm. And she then they obviously go to Shadesmar, and she sees more
Mhm.
cryptics, which is a cool moment. I think her seeing the other cryptics and seeing Pattern as
Mhm.
a walking person rather than
Mhm.
just a blob.
Mhm.
And then I am speeding up now because I've only got about 15 minutes. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, she then with Adeline and Kaladin shoot out of the perpendicularity, which we'll talk about in a minute,
Mhm.
to join the battle at Thalen. Um, we're going to really, really skirt over the battle at Thalen, which is like 20% of the book, and
Sure.
it is fantastic. Um, and there's a really good big turning point there with the like Amaram stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, but the lion's share of this book really is Dalinar, isn't it? Because he's a
Yes.
flashback character.
He has a lot of flashback stuff, but like so much of his story is pretty like slow moving and more
Mm,
introspective. So like plot wise, not a lot is him until the end,
mm.
kind of.
And
It's a
yeah,
lot more political and like backroom type stuff, or not even backroom, just in the room where it happens.
yeah, and I did really enjoy everything going on with him, and obviously him learning about his wife and how he was kind of sort of responsible for her death, which then
Kind of, sort of.
yeah drove him to depression and alcoholism,
Hmm.
which is kind of where we find him when his brother dies.
Yep.
Um,
So that, yeah, then he blames himself for his brother dying because he was drunk.
mm,
He does have that moment in Words of Radiance where he goes, "Never mind, it wasn't my fault. If I was there, I would have died anyway."
mm. Um, yeah, I think the thing we learn obviously is that he basically killed his wife, um,
Mhm.
and that he
He was a
traded.
bad, bad man.
Yeah, he traded the bad memories to the to cultivation.
Yes.
Pardon me, it's very late. Traded them to cultivation, which is why he didn't remember his wife. And then he starts to remember her in this book, and that kind of
Hmm.
triggers the flashbacks, takes us down this road.
Hmm. Yeah, he's remembering his wife. Like it's slowly coming back to him.
And eventually he's at the Battle of Thalen, and he talks directly to Odium, right? In this book, this is
Yep,
the first time he talks to
a
Odium,
couple times.
and he's like, "Oh shit, Odium's like mega powerful." Like that's his big revelation. I seem to remember.
Sorry,
He,
you cut out there. What was his big revelation?
oh,
ODM's.
the Odium's like mega powerful. That he's like
Oh yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
way too powerful for him. He doesn't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
comprehend it.
Yes. Yes.
And he then obviously his one big thing is he speaks the first ideal. Is it the first ideal?
He had already spoken the first. That's how he bonded the Stormfather.
Yeah,
But
second
uh,
ideal. There's something happening.
uh, it's unclear like what exactly is happening here. It's kind of unprecedented as what you get because there hasn't been a bondsmith since Honor died, and Honor kind of locked down like the bondsmiths and like what they could do. But uh, he scares Odium
Yeah,
because he's like, "We killed you," but like we don't know what exactly that means, like who killed who, uh, and he. It says somewhere that Dalinar capital A ascended at this point when he slams together all three realms and creates honors perpendicularity.
Mm.
My model here, you can't see it, but he's got kind of derpy eyes and eyebrows.
Mm. And his
His
whole
like
thing,
eyebrows are like shifted over to the left. It's weird.
the perpendicularity like shoots Stormlight out, doesn't it? And so it
Yes,
basically
it
supercharges all the radiants that are there.
yes. And at this point, he rips Kaladin, Adolin, and Shallan out of Shadesmar because they happen to be right there. And then you get your Infinity War moment
Yeah.
of you've got the 10 radiant orders there.
Yeah. And some very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, very very good fight, very fantastic. Renarin gets to be a badass.
Yeah.
Just run up and fight a Thunderclast and just get smashed,
Mm.
and then like cut his way out, and very good stuff. Adolin running from the Thunderclast. Oh, we could talk about that forever. But
The best part of this is that we spent like an hour talking about Way of Kings, and now we have 10 minutes to discuss Rhythm of War, which for many people is probably the way around they want it to be. So Rhythm of War, I think, to acknowledge, many people do not like Rhythm of War. I think that it's good, not great.
I like it more now on my third reread, or my second reread, third read.
Watching the recap, I was like, actually, I genuinely remember enjoying most of this. The big thing that I did not really get on board with was how Sanderson dealt with PTSD stuff for Kaladin. I do really enjoy the Die Shard. You know, him in the
Running around shoeless and
saving, I really enjoyed that whole stuff. I really liked the Seeker. What's his name? Is it the Seeker? He has the fuse that keeps hunting him down.
oh, the Pursuer.
Pursuer, yeah. I enjoyed the Pursuer a lot. That whole thing was really good and really well done. And I liked Kaladin kind of building these relationships with normal people again. I really enjoyed the Teft stuff, which I would say kind of comes under Kaladin. I did not enjoy Teft dying, obviously.
It sucks because he he gets you could say, oh, his story was over and he got forgiveness, or like he found love for himself, but like let them
Enjoy
exist
it.
beyond. Yeah, don't just like, okay, their story's over, kill them off, like. And like, I get needing to fridge somebody to create a motivation behind, Kaladin doing stuff or whatever. But yeah.
And there's been a kind of, not a subplot, but there's been a ongoing thing throughout these books with the last two books, I guess, of Kaladin not swearing the fourth ideal. And it does
for Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, he's like incredibly close, which is why he doesn't. He's there. He just needs to say it and like acknowledge it. But he can't. He can't bring himself to do it. So that ends up, because he's like kind of frozen up, that leads to him being demoted and left behind when they do their big campaign in Imul and Azir. But because he's so close, he is able to hold off against the powers, or like the security system inversion that should knock him out.
Yeah, very, very good. Well done. And, as I said, I think some of the stuff with the PTSD and the way that he deals with the it feels like he's like, I've discovered mental health. Like, I don't know. It's really tough to talk about. It's tough to read in terms of like, you don't know what Sanderson doesn't have much experience with this. He said, and he relies.
I mean, Sanderson himself has said like he doesn't feel. I don't know. This is kind of a ridiculous way to say it, but he just like doesn't feel sad. Kind of like, he is very just like even keeled, like kind of, he enjoys things and like
Yeah.
obviously feels sorrow and things like that, but he does not feel like emotions particularly strongly,
Yeah.
is the way he's described it. And he like hasn't dealt with like depression, of course. But he does like try and do his best to like speak to people and experts on these things. Like his wife deals with depression. And so, he tries to speak to people. And I mean, part of the idea is this world doesn't have mental health, like
Doesn't have a concept of.
doesn't have mental health care. Their idea is we stick people in a dark room and don't let them talk to anybody else because they'll make each other worse.
Yeah.
And so, that is literally, there is a bit in Wind and Truth where Wit is like, oh yeah, you're becoming a therapist or like a psychologist. And Kaladin's like, what is a psychologist? He's like, oh, you're inventing it. Don't worry about it. It doesn't exist yet.
Wow, don't spoil Wind and Truth for everyone. Jesus.
Hey, it's preview chapters. It's online. It's not a spoiler if it's online.
That seems fine to me, to be honest.
Published, officially published.
Yeah, Kaladin again. For me, I think more that it feels like it comes out of nowhere. There is also the big moment for Kaladin is the fourth bridge, the flying spaceship, and him
Airship.
Yeah, I feel like Kaladin is also getting quite close with one of the fused. I can't remember who she is. Leshwi. I feel like there's a romance there. That's me. I'm shipping them.
Yeah, a lot of people do. You're not the first.
And I really enjoy that. I would like to see more going on there.
There is, like, I mean, yeah. At the end of the book, Leshwi is like has withdrawn from the conflict, and is trying to find a way to exist and separate from
Outside
what has
of
happened.
the war.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. I like Leshwi a lot as a character.
Yeah.
Shallan is doing a lot of... So she's investigating the cult, the Amaram cult, the Amalam Gavilar cult.
Yep. Sons of Honor.
And she's also getting deeper and deeper in with the Ghostbloods and Mraize.
Yep.
Mraize, right? He's the head of the Ghostbloods.
Yep. No.
He's the Rosharan head.
He is the second in command on Roshar.
Yeah.
Eatil is who is the woman in the mask. Is his mentor.
And obviously she's from Mistborn. Well,
obviously.
Scadrial. I did not
Yes,
without at all. You had to tell me.
Yeah.
So the one other thing that she's doing is that she is kind of reintegrating her personalities. Like that's a big thing for her in this book, right? Or
no. She is getting worse over time.
No, you're right. Yeah, she's getting worse. I don't know why I thought it was the other way around. Yeah, she's getting
at the end of the
bad.
book. She does. At the end of the book, she does bring things together and start to reintegrate, and like Vale becomes.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Like she stops turning into Vale.
Yeah,
basically. But that's the end of the book. She fractures and is like, "Oh, I've got a fourth personality forming."
And the fourth one is real bad, right? The fourth one is like.
The fourth one is just Shallan.
Yeah, it's the actual Shallan, and it's like
basically, yeah,
a murderer or whatever.
Yeah, who like I'm going to murder people. I'm going to join the Ghostbloods. I'm going to do anything to like forget what has happened and like yeah.
Interesting. I really like the while I did not enjoy the depiction of PTSD depression, I thought that Shallan really worked. I liked her storyline a lot. And also, she and Adeline are getting closer and closer. Then they're kind of.
I mean, yeah, they've been married for a year.
Yeah, they did the wedding, didn't they, at Dragonsteel? That was like a big thing. They got actors and stuff.
But they're doing it.
Is it this year?
In like 2 weeks.
That's probably why I thought they hadn't got married yet, because they're doing the thing.
No. It's they got married at the end of Oathbringer, and we get Queen Yasna at the end of Oathbringer as well.
Yeah, Queen Yasna is great. Queen Yasna is fantastic in this. When she just summons the fourth ideal armor stuff, I was like, this is so cool. Like, I
But
love that she's the first person to do it
we
on
don't
page.
actually we don't see her have armor. We don't see her summon her armor. In Oathbringer, she doesn't have armor. At
She
least we
does
don't see it.
in Rhythm of
But she
War.
doesn't summon it. She's just wearing it.
Oh yeah, but like I like that she's the first person to do it in the books. And
Yeah,
it
we
happens
see
off
her like,
page.
oh, yeah.
Um,
I think we'll get that eventually, but we'll get that scene. But
so, what have we forgotten about Shallan?
okay, so what is yes, so Shallan, her mission at the beginning is investigating Sons of Honor, like you said, looking for Sadeas's wife.
Yes, I remember that.
And then
That was a cool.
Sadeas's
Spicy.
wife dies. Yeah, she gets murdered
Yeah.
right under their nose, basically. And it's like, okay, who was it? Who was it? And then that kind of continues throughout the book, is like a whodunit of who murdered. And so when they get sent on a mission by Dalinar to go to Lasting Integrity, the Honorsprend stronghold, to make a case like, hey, Honorsprend,
Come
we need
back.
more Windrunners. She's like, okay, who am I going to take on this mission with me? And like, who am I suspicious of, basically?
And doesn't it end up that it's her?
Yes.
Yeah.
She, Radiant, actually murdered, what's her name? I can't remember. Sadeas's wife. I can't remember her name right now.
It's called like Illumi or something. I'm sure it has an eye.
Yeah, Eli.
Yes.
Murder. Yes. So Radiant murdered Eli to protect Shallan and prevent Formless from like becoming stronger.
But Formless
as
is
like
just
a-
Shallan.
Yes, but like, yeah, so to protect Shallan. But the whole time there's this who did it, and Shallan is suspicious of everybody, and Mraize gives her a box that she can use to contact him, and so like from Shadesmar she can contact the tower, and she keeps like he keeps saying things that make her think, oh, okay, it's this person. No, it's this person. Eventually, she begins to think it's Pattern.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's because Pattern was talking to Wit with the box, and like, what do I do about Shallan? And then the box is a Seon.
Yeah. I did not obviously know that because I hadn't read
No,
Elantris.
yes,
But
yes.
that's incredibly
So
cool.
the box is a Seon, and it was reporting back to Mraize
Very cool.
because of something you will see in Wind and Truth.
Because Mraize is an Elantrian. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Mraize is Thalen. Mraize is Thalen.
So, Dalinar?
Yeah, Dalinar.
Dalinar's whole thing in this book is,
Very small.
yeah, he's trying to get a political coalition together, isn't he? Like, that's his whole thing.
No, that's all of Oathbringer.
Oh, is
The
it?
coalition is together. Yeah, the coalition is together. He is trying to help Aesir recapture lands, and also
Yes, yeah.
he needs to learn about his powers, and so he wants to meet Ishar, the bondsmith herald, who he finds out is that person by talking to Taln and Ash, who are other heralds, and Ash is like,
She looks after Talon, basically, doesn't she?
yeah, she does. They've got a romance. And she's like super guilty about them breaking the oath pact and leaving him there. But he's just like, oh man, Talon's the best. So he's like, we gave him 4,000 years to like get their shit together. That's amazing. I'm very excited to see more of them and like what they can do, because Talon is the best fighter amongst the heralds. But yeah, so Dalinar's whole thing is basically just like watching battlefields and then trying to figure out how his bondsmith powers work. And like there's stuff with Taravangian, but like the big thing is kind of at the end of the book when he saves Kaladin's life twice. He like abuses the Stormfather. Is like, we're gonna throw Kaladin up 80 stories using your wind to like on top of Urithiru so he can survive the storm and get away from the fused.
Mm.
And then they go and they meet Ishar and talk to him. And Ishar is like, "Oh, you're on Odium's side, and I'm the Almighty, or I will become the Almighty." And he does like some weird bondsmith stuff and shows off the possibilities of the powers. And then he's like, this is all at the climax of the book. So as Navani bonds the sibling, we have to talk about Navani for this book. As Navani bonds the sibling, it like makes whatever spiritual ailment that is messing with Ishar's mind kind of regress, and so he's able to have some clarity and is like, "Come find me in Shinovar, and I will help you, and we can deal with this." But my mind is not good. So then he's gone. And then they find Ishar has been somehow pulling Spren out of Shadesmar and like trying to keep them alive and then dissecting them when they die.
Cool. I'd forgotten
Just
all
a
of
great, creepy scene.
I think
As they walk into the tent and they're just like, what is this weird squiggly headed thing? As they've got like a vivisected
cryptic.
vivisected cryptic. And the Stormfather's like, get out, leave now. I don't like this.
So it's very, very late for me, so I've got like 4 minutes. We need to talk very quickly about Fernley, who...
Yeah, sure.
So the Fernley plot points. She's bonded of a Spren called Timber.
Reacher. Timbre.
I always had Timber, like the musical note,
No.
like because she's a singer.
But no, that's timbre. That's timbre.
Oh.
Timber is when you fall a tree.
No, Timber is...
Timbre. Like... No, it's... Okay, hold on.
This is British versus American, I expect.
No, it is timbre. They're Tamba. Timber is Timber. Okay. Okay. Here, I'm going to send this to you.
So Timber, she bonds Timber.
Timbre. Tumba. According to this Cambridge dictionary.
Yeah.
If it's R-E, it's timbre. If it's E-R, it's timber.
Interesting. I'm going to continue to say it the way that I want to.
That's not even like a fantasy word, though. It's just a real word.
It is now. So she becomes one of the ones we've not seen. One of the
Will Shaper.
Radiants. Yeah, Will Shaper. And she is like... She's on the redemption path. This whole book is basically her like trying to hide her Spren, trying to defy the fused in like minor
Get away.
ways, and trying to like escape and try and fix what she's fucked up. And like
I think it's kind of Pandora's box. She's just like, I need to get out of here. I made a mistake. This is bad. I need to save the people I can and leave.
And then she's obviously her and Ash and I are the flashback characters. And people hated these, but I was a huge fan. I really enjoyed them.
I liked Ashonai. I liked Eshenai. I didn't care for Venli, like I said before.
Yeah. I'm the Venli stan. I want more Venli in book 5. I'm excited for it. But as I said, unfortunately we don't have much time left. I do apologise everyone for having to rush this, but we were having too much fun earlier on. Maybe I should just cut this into multiple episodes because it's a very long video.
Yeah, do what you got to do. We didn't do a good intro for the other parts and whatnot, but
I'll just cut it every time. I just use the same intro every time.
Sure, yeah.
So finally, we're on Navani. Navani's probably the most interesting character in this book.
She has the most, she's locked in a single room for like, 3/4 of the book.
Raboniel.
Yeah.
Who's
Lady
the
of
best,
Wishes.
Yeah, the best villain in Stormlight so far, I think.
Yeah.
Because she's the most personal villain, and obviously...
Yeah.
Raboniel has
Most
that.
humanized.
Yeah, and she's got that. Her daughter, who has
Hmm.
gone insane from too many resurrections, and she's just
Yep.
kind of trying to kill her basically, so that she doesn't have to come back
Yep.
again.
Yep.
And Navani and her eventually work it out. They
What do they
work
work
out.
out?
They work out how to merge Stormlight and Voidlight or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that they learn that and something else.
I don't remember. There's something else.
How to make anti-light.
Right.
So make inverse of Stormlight, the inverse of a Warlight, the inverse of Lifelight.
And then she also, I mean, we're zooming through now,
Mhm.
but Navani bonds the Mega Spren that runs
Tower
all
Spren,
through.
the sibling.
Yeah. And that's kind of like. Navani has all the best scenes in this book, I think. The stuff with
Journey before
Raboniel,
destination, you bastard.
I really enjoyed also the bit with Raboniel where, like, Navani has worked out that she's done it and she's
Hmm.
trying to hide it from Raboniel. That scene is
Hmm.
basically a conversation, but it's so tense, it's so good.
Hmm. Yep.
What have we forgotten from. Let's cliff notes.
Uh,
Is there anything big we've not.
Adolin going on trial
Yeah.
for the recreants, and then them bringing out, and then Lon is supposed to kill Kolek, the herald from the prelude, uh, and he is supposed to be the judge, but then they're like, oh, interference, and we think he might let Adolin off, so we want to make an example of him, so we're gonna replace him with super judgmental Spren, and then they bring out Maya, Adolin's
Shardblade.
Shardblade Spren, Deadeye, as a witness, but then she speaks and says, "We chose. You can't have my sacrifice," because basically saying the Recreants, where all the Radiants gave up their swords, but they broke their bonds, and it killed a bunch of Spren, was our choice. We didn't know what would happen, but like we also chose. It wasn't
Yeah.
just the humans. We did it together, not knowing what would happen, but it had to happen. We don't know why. Still, we still don't know what exactly the cause of the recreants was. But then, so there's like, okay, well, oh boy. And so they let Adolin off, and he doesn't have to go into a Spren prison for a long time. And then, so there's that. There's, oh, I had something. Um, Taravangian becomes Odium.
Yes, that is the big moment, isn't it, at the end?
Yes.
And Odium and Dalinar agree to the Contest of Champions,
Contest of Champions.
which
So they
Dalinar's been
agree to the Contest of
trying to get him to do.
Champions. Yes, for like a year.
Yeah.
But he never sees him. But then after the tower falls and goes back to human control, it then Odium shows up. Is like, okay, fine. Contest of Champions. Here's the rules, conditions. They agree to the contest. They just hadn't set terms. And then immediately after that, Odium goes to see Taravangian, and then he ascends and kills Race and takes over the power, which cultivation set him up to do by giving him the varying intelligence, and so the intelligence to like comprehend all the information and the empathy to like control the emotions and the power and things like that. Anything else? Odium, Todium steals or like talks to Hoyd, but then messes with his memories, so he doesn't remember talking to him because Hoyd goes, "Something's not right. You're not acting like Race. This person I've known for millennia."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Whoops, I shouldn't have asked you who you would choose as a champion. That's not something that would happen." And so he messes with his memories. Let's see what else. The listeners, you find out that the listeners who didn't turn into storm forms in Words of Radiance, who you thought all died in the chasms, actually escaped, and they're like living their best life and have like are living communally with like chasm fiends.
I'd forgotten all of this. Obviously.
Yes, Venli's mother, who is like dementia basically
Yeah.
and is losing her memory and her mind, actually starts to be healed by bonding a spren. Just like you get the very beginnings of that. Zeth wants to go to Shinovar because Ishar is like, "Oh yeah, your father died, and I took my shard blade from him."
Yeah.
So Zeth's like, "I need to go back to Shinovar and find out what's happening because my father's dead." And Downer's like, "Okay," and then he's like, "Okay, I got to send Kaladin with this guy." Let's see, anything else? Zale Vasher.
Yeah.
Zale, completely missing for this entire, but he talks to Kaladin at the beginning and is like, "Oh yeah, tier 1 invested entity, tier 2 invested entity." But apparently at some point we'll find out what he was doing and why he wasn't around to help in the invasion. Is there anything else?
I think we're done.
Oh, Ba'ado Mishram was another unmade. That is the last important thing. Ba'ado Mishram is missing. As like was imprisoned, and something happened, and it messed up everything on Roshar. Like it's the reason Deadeyes exist. It's the reason that the singers lost forms of power. It's like it messed everything up, and so that is a big part of Wind and Truth is
Fixing
that.
the stuff.
Yes.
Right. So Andre and I are going to come back together. We're going to be doing full spoiler discussions for Wind of Truth. We're going to be going... I think the original idea was to go by parts and to do one for each part. But it's not five parts, right?
It seems like it's divided by days because 10 days until the Contest of Champions, which is established at the end of Rhythm of War. So there's 10 days, and it seems like, based on the preview chapters, that the book is broken up by days, and it's like, okay, end of day 1, here are your interludes. Presumably this week, next chapters will be the end of day 2, and then it'll be interludes before part 3, and then the book will release, and then basically anyone who's read the preview chapters can start reading from day 3, is my guess.
So I think that's what we'll probably still split it 5 ways, but we may do 2 days per discussion.
Sure.
And we'll see how it works when I start reading and stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this very long video and that you've had a lot of fun with Andre, and I will see you guys soon. Please like, please subscribe, please drop comments down below, everything that we
smash that like button.
Yeah, smash the like button, and we will speak to you soon. I'm not doing that.